Welcome to the Shaun Newman Podcast. Today I am joined by Kenny Rutherford, guest number 1 of the show if you go way back in the time machine. And we are doing the year in review for year 2. It doesn't feel that long ago, Kenny. We were sitting here. Not here. We were sitting in Lloyd doing the first one, and it was kind of like not a dumb idea. It was just kind of like one of those spur of the moments, like, here's do a year in review. And then I started thinking about who I'd want to do it with. And I'm like, well, I need somebody to ask me questions and somebody who's maybe hosted a show before. And, you know, your name came up and I was like, that makes complete sense. He was guest 1. He might as well, do the year in review. And I think when this finally comes out on December 31st, it will be episode 976, I believe, is what the year in review comes out this year. So thanks for hopping back in with me to do another one of these. I don't know. Let's take a look back and see what the podcast did in a year.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Shaun. It was. Well, you and I both listened to it from last year. And in some ways, a year felt like it went by in a month. But it also felt like a long time ago. Man, the world's covered a lot of ground. Our lives have covered a lot of ground in 12 months. You know, when we were talking, remember, it was like Chinese spy balloons and.
Well, and we were talking about the federal election, and at
that's right.
And at the time, I was like, Pierre's winning.
Slam dunk.
Right? And this can't be screwed up. And then, of course, Carney comes in, and then you're like, what, elbows up, everything. And, you know, like, that hasn't been the world. That wasn't the world. I was completely wrong in my thought of where we were heading. And now here we sit, right? So it has been, you know, in a lot of senses, a dark year, but on other senses, it's been a great year. And so that's why we do these. And, you know, we joked about it halfway through the last one. We're like, I was saying, we're doing a second one and you're going to do this annual with me. And it's funny when we get closer to Christmas, I'm doing, I haven't recorded it as of recording this, but I get to do Christmas Day with Tanner and a Day. I think that'll be our 3rd year in a row doing that. And this has just become another one of the annual things that I look forward to at Christmas time. There's lots to look forward to at Christmas. And, this is just one of those fun ones that I look forward to, and I'm happy that you enjoyed it well enough to come back on and do it with me.
Well, thanks for doing that. Thanks for doing this, Shaun. Thanks for having me out. And now, you know, when we talked, and every year it gets more because you've just done so much thinking and so much talking and so much discussion that when I was listening to my comments from last year, where you've become an interesting person of your own. Because of all those conversations.
I don't know about that. My wife would argue with you.
Sure, all of our wives would argue with that. But I think I made a comment of, you know, you'd say you have a degree or maybe even into a master's degree. Well, you've had another year and how many conversations on the year?
Well, I was doing the math.
Right.
So it was if I did 4 standalone podcasts a week, I should come out at 208. And I did 204. So when I talk about consistency and being one of the driving forces of the podcast, I was pretty close. And the 4 I missed was July. I took the month of July off, and there would have been a few more missed there, and there would have been a couple added in because I had a couple weeks where I published 5 on an extra one on Friday. And so, you know, when you look at success, you know, I don't know what the percentage is of 204 out of 208, but it's awfully high.
And those are recorded conversations.
Yeah.
So you have other conversations outside of that, other books you read, other
people
for sure
you
reach out to. And then also, you know, you and I talk almost every morning. And I admire you for so many reasons. But one is it's like, Ken, I've got 10 minutes because then I have to get through this book or get through this article because I'm interviewing somebody in an hour and a half and I have to finish their book or their article or an interview that they just had that came out 2 days ago. I have to make sure I'm up on this. And so you're doing a lot of research for all of these conversations.
Well, Dallas Brody was the most recent one. People heard that conversation and I still hadn't watched Making a Killing. And I'm like, well, I better go watch it. I mean, it only got released. You know, I was feeling bad for why haven't you watched this? And I'm like, wait a second, it's been 11 days or whatever it had been since they released it. I'm like, don't beat yourself up too much. It actually just came out. And then she'd already done an interview too that had gotten sent to me. And I was like, okay, I got 3 hours I got to get through this so I can actually speak coherently to Dallas Brody about what is actually happening with 1BC. And not every guest is like that, but certainly, yeah, there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes. You would probably know more so than most that, people send me stuff all the time. And I'm like, oh my, how am I going to, you send me stuff all the time. Jamie Sinclair, I know you're listening to this, sends me stuff all the time. And I appreciate it. It's trying to find the time to actually get through some of the stuff and whether or not it's useful to the week's work ahead, and there's lots of stuff going on in the world, as we both know.
Well, Shaun and I, the listeners will figure this out as we've kind of talked about, well, what are we going to talk about? A year in review. Why don't we start with something like this? What was let's start personal. What was a high for in just your personal life from this last year, Shaun?
Well, just to go back a year to start that, you asked me roughly the same thing a year ago, and I talked about taking my wife to Lake Louise for a weekend trip, a couples retreat, and being like pretty nervous about that. And that was one of the most important. That was the most important thing. We celebrated 10 years in 2024, and our 11th year here in 2025. And one of the big things I did this year is I stopped drinking for a year. And I want to make this clear because I do not like lying to my audience. It bugs me because I want them to know. I had a caveat, and the caveat was that I would drink if my wife was like, I want to have a drink with you. So I didn't drink all year minus, I believe, like 6 times. Like on our anniversary, we went for a hike, like a long hike. Everybody can have a chuckle about this because Shaun hasn't been drinking now. This is August. We go for a long hike, and it's hot, and then we're in Wisconsin, and we go for lunch. And she goes, do you want to have a drink? And I said, do you want to have a drink? She's like, yeah, I think I'd like to have a drink. So we had one drink on the balcony of a restaurant, and we had to go walk it off because we were both tipsy. And I was like, coming from a guy who used to be able to, I don't know, I sat in here the other night with the military boys, and I would have been right there with them, had, 5 or 6 and felt pretty good. I had one drink in the afternoon. Now, was I dehydrated and all things? Sure. And we were giggling like 2 little high school kids walking around one of the small towns of Wisconsin because neither, like Mel, the reason I made the caveat, she'd asked, and Mel drinks less than anyone I've ever known, like that comes from my circles, right? I come from a hockey circle where you drink every weekend. Mel's always had the ability to say no to anyone. So when I told her I was going to do it, she's like, she surprised me because she's like, you're not going to drink at all? And I'm like, well, I thought you'd be happy about this. She's like, well, what if I want to have a drink with you? I'm like, okay, well, then I will have a drink with you, but I'm not going to do it unless you want to do it because I'm not forcing you to drink every time I want to have a drink. So it took until the summertime. I went about, basically 8 months straight with nothing. And then on our anniversary, celebrating 11 years, I can't even remember. It was like some daiquiri or something on on a hot sunny day. And anyways, so just to be, this as much as I think my audience does, I don't like misconstruing what I'm doing. So I stopped drinking this year, and I just wouldn't say that I went the full year without drinking because there's been a couple of times where I've had a beverage with my wife. It's one of the things Tyler talked about, and I nodded because I was like, I fully agree with what you're talking about. It's I just really enjoy it, and my wife doesn't drink at all. She hardly drinks ever, and just cutting that out has been. Well, this as well. Letting the audience in, I called Kenny. Was it 4 months in? 5 months?
After you stopped drinking?
Yeah, 4 or 5 months in.
It was that sounds about right.
I can't remember if it was Cornerstone Forum or just before that. And you were asking me how it's going. Yeah, it's going okay. I just, I'm going to be honest. I'll probably, when I get to the year, I'll probably just have a drink. Like I'm not that worried about it or whatever. And then you asked me a question that was basically, how has stopping drinking changed your life? And my answer before I could even think about it was, well, it's been the best thing I've ever done. And you're like, well, why would you have a drink then when it's all over? And I'm like, huh.
Yeah, because what I remember you saying was, I'm glad I'm taking some time off drinking, but I don't know if I'm ready to be done drinking because I still want to have a scotch with my brothers.
That's
I still want to have a scotch with the book club. I still want to be able to have a cold beer after a hockey game. And I remember listening to you say, and it was like your brain was focusing, which we all do, right? Your brain seemed to be focusing on the pluses of drinking. And from the outside looking in, as a friend of yours, I watched giant bars of gold of value being handed into your life from not drinking, not waking up hungover, time with your family, right? You know, producing more, dreaming more. And then I hear you talking about getting, a couple loonies flipped your way but I think once in my life, I'd still like to be able to have a scotch with my brothers. Well, that's fine too, but look at what you've got from not drinking and look what you get from drinking. I'm failing to see the motivation to drink again. And, they say you are the average of your 5 closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because we were in the book club together, we were in the hockey world together and have kind of been moving together, which is supportive of the 5 closest friends theory, that I decided I was going to cut back drastically on drinking as well. And I've got a question for you on this. It's because I've noticed a lot of good things come into my life, but there was twice this year, not that it was a terrible time, but where I had more than 2, where I would have been over the limit of driving to be legal to drive. And like you, I've become much more spiritual. And I find that when I wasn't drinking, I'm sleeping right and I'm eating right. I didn't realize that I'm much more connected spiritually. I wish I could say all the time, but often. And I found those 2 days that I had more than my 2 it was like a cord was cut. It was like I lost my spiritual connection. It was a really hollow, empty feeling. Now you haven't gone back to drinking, so I guess you can't answer that. But do you find your spiritual connectedness is correlated with your decrease in drinking?
I don't know how to answer, actually. We're sitting in a new studio. And I don't know if I've ever told the story of like how it comes to be. Because you're talking about like how do you connect to God? And I'm like, I wish I could tell you it's, 1 + 1, or you press this button and you do that and all of a sudden, boom, you're in there. And I've heard lots of people talk about it, but I don't know. I pray every morning and I do my best to read Proverbs for sure every morning, or as close to it as I can get. And to me, that's how I connect. It's lots of different people talk about it. I was reading, one of the books we read in the book club was Tools of Titans. And I went back looking through that for a morning routine just to see what other, very successful people did in their mornings. And one of the things you see is, some meditate, some do just a quiet time and they write, they do different things like that. And I'm like, oh, I already do that. And people call it grounding. I just find it gives me a level of peace that I cannot control what Mark Carney does or what happens in, the BC legislature or what it goes on over here. I can control what I can control. And I fully believe that God has control of this entire bloody thing. And he's been driving it. And so the reason I bring up the new studio is it's last October. And I had tried to will my way to a new studio. I had many of the blue collar guys. They know who they are. They came out. They looked at a couple different spots. I'd had a bunch of people come look at it. And it was just, and it always felt like it had this force pushing against it. Like, this isn't going to work. And I try and make it work, and I try and ignore facts, and it just didn't work. And I was telling Jamie Sinclair when he was in here, I've had the premier in the studio in Lloyd. I've had country music artists. I've had all these different people. Not one person's ever complained about sound quality. Full stop. Doesn't matter if somebody's taking a leak, walking down the hall. Nobody's ever said, your sound quality sucks in here. It needs to get better. And watch Jamie Sinclair. And he'd been in the studio a handful of times by that time. And at the end of it, he goes, really need, where's that new studio at? And I'm like, what? And he's like, your sound quality sucks. And I'm like, who are you? And Jamie, I have full time for you. You know that. We were just talking today. I'm just like surprised that it's Jamie Sinclair. So then, he's like, you want to go for lunch and a beer? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so Jamie's thing is he doesn't like to sit. He likes to go stand at the bar. So we go into OJ's, we stand at the bar, and he's talking to me about this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I've been trying. And we're sitting there and we're having a beer, and in walks Jonas Hagel. And I go, that's kind of funny. And so we invite Jonas Hagel over. And Jonas and Jamie start talking. And out of the conversation comes this spot.
Oh, that's where it came from.
And I look at Jonas and I'm like, wait a second. Could I come take a look at that? And, like immediately, I just had one of those moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, this isn't, like, I had no hand in figuring this out whatsoever. And then to just add to it, so I went and prayed about it, and I, man, you got an interesting way of doing things, like it's just cool when you can see it. So then I come out and I look at the A-frame, which nobody's really seen yet since past. And the story I always tell about Reg is at the beginning of COVID, I had a couple of calls that were very difficult. And the guy who always brightened my day was Reg Hagel.
Yeah.
He'd call me out of the blue and just say, what you're doing is amazing. Just keep going. And I'd be like, Reg, I haven't talked to you in like 5 years. And then he'd just call you out of the blue. And then who's on the bus to Tucker Carlson? Reg Hagel, just dancing around, having a great time going with us when Tucker came to Rogers Place and we took the bus there. And of course, Reg is there. Every single show I did, every single one, Reg was there. He never missed one.
And Reg, and then this Hagel family, they're all, I describe a lot of us this way, is quirky, good quirky. They're artists. They're alive. They're thinkers, and they've been on the same side of this freedom side of things as the whole family. And so the Hagel family, from top to bottom is well, I've already said it, freedom people. And Jonas has this part, and in this yard site is an old A-frame and an old shop that debatable whether it should have been burnt down or turned into something, but it had a cool feel to it. So now you take it away. So Jonas says you should come out and take a look. So
I go take a look at the A-frame, and I quickly realize it's just not suited for a studio. I'm like, this is, I'm trying once again. I'm like, this isn't it. So I'm actually praying about it. I'm like, this just isn't it. Like I can't do what I want to do in this spot. Like it doesn't work. And if I bring in my oldest brother, he goes, why don't you look at that building? What's wrong with that building? I look at it, and I'm like, that building?
This one? So it's Jason?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And so we came and looked at it, and I kind of looked at it, and I'm like, okay, maybe, like Stu Light came and looked at it. I had a bunch of people come look at it because I'm like, this is a terrible idea. Tell me right now. But the thing I've been praying about is I had a lot of time to think on what I wanted out of a studio, a new one that I was going to design, and the dimensions specifically, Kenny. And I said, okay, my current studio is a 12 by 12 room, and I want it 24 feet. I want it double the length. And I remember specifically going, I want it 12 feet wide. No, let's go an extra 2 feet. I want it 14 feet wide. And so when I measured this place, I was laughing because it was 24 feet by 16 wide. And I thought, well, that's pretty darn close. But you know what the width of it is now after we framed it in? 14 feet wide. And I just chuckle about it because I'm like, there are times where I'm like, this is a terrible idea. But then I go, but who put you here? It wasn't me. It certainly wasn't me. And so when you talk about the drinking and connecting, I know drinking can throw a lot of things out of whack. But at that time, it was, I was having a sociable beer with Sinclair that actually put me in the position of where, so I don't know how to... everybody, I feel like, is different. Now, in saying that, the Bible talks about not drinking excess, that Proverbs talks specifically about beer and wine and who should have it, And so I could see how you could make that conclusion for sure.
So when we started, we were talking about highs of your year. So what I've got out of that was the no drinking, the podcast studio, obviously, coming together. Any other things that you'd say these are highs of the year?
Well, if you're going back to the podcast, the Cornerstone Forum, we took it to Calgary, and I think I've told this a few times, but, Silver Gold Bull and Bow Valley Credit Union, specifically Brett Oland and Nick Morianos, who've both been guests on the show now, after they came to Lloyd's, they're like, this needs to come to Calgary. And I must have told them no 4 or 5 times. No, I'm not doing it. Like, you're a year or two faster than me. I'm not taking it. That's way too much stress. I'd done an event in Edmonton back in 2023, if memory serves me correct. Byron Christopher and Chris Sims and Kid Carson and Wayne Peters. And that took That probably gave me more gray hairs than I
that was
had.
at the church.
Yeah, it was a beautiful spot.
Yeah, so would that be Cornerstone 1?
No,
was
that was SMP Presents, and
Right,
I just had different themes every
Right.
time. So you fast forward, Cornerstone 1 was in Lloydminster in 2023.
Where with Andre and Daniel
2024.
Smith and
2024. No,
Shane Getson.
no, that was just an
That was
SMP.
an SMP Presents.
Cornerstone
Okay.
number 1 was in Lloyd in 2024 with Curtis Stone and Tom Luongo and Alex
Right.
Craner. I had, I think, 6 guys speak, and the idea was a dark morning and then solution afternoon. And it didn't work out exactly it wasn't a perfect success. I learned a lot off that. And both Brett and Nick told me, you got to bring it to Calgary. I'm not coming. And for reasons I've just said. And they convinced me to go to Calgary. So I went to Calgary and sat with them, and we took it to Calgary against all my misgivings. And they just were like, this needs to come to Calgary. This needs to come to Calgary. And so when we did it in the Winsport, Nick was there when I picked the venue, and he was laughing at me because I walked in the Winsport, and I'm like, this is it. He's like, this is it? You want to do it in a rink? I'm like, yeah, I want to do it in a rink. This is something. And that was the first time I started to understand what I was building, and I'd never grasped it. I come home after the Cornerstone Forum. Mel's with me. We go up to the room, and we're just sitting there. And, I'm just decompressing because it's a lot in a day. And she's asking me about it, and what did you think? And I'm like, I'm just struggling with how many people shook my hand profusely in the best possible way. And I just don't understand what they're shaking my hand for. I don't know what I've done. I just put together a group of speakers, and, and I think I run a professional show, and I just don't get it. And it was the next morning, I went down for breakfast because I still didn't understand. I was sitting in the breakfast room, and all the people that had come to the show were in there. And they were hopping from table to table, talking with everybody. It was just like almost kumbaya. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm building community. That's all it is. I looked around. I'm like, oh, you can buy a ticket. Where can you ever buy a ticket, Kenny, and go to some show where you know nobody and leave with 10 new friends? I don't know if I've ever, have you, maybe in the middle of COVID, you go into a hall and you leave with a couple of friends. But other than that, I don't know of where you go out to, unless you know a bunch of people. You can literally sit at any table in the Cornerstone Forum. I would probably bet money on it and come out with somebody. They're like, that was an interesting person. Everybody says that. And I witnessed it the next morning, and I'm like, oh, this is what it is. It's pulling together the community once a year. And they all talk about wanting to stay connected. And I'm getting texts right now from people that are coming to the next one saying, I've been talking to these people all year long. We're excited to see each other again. And everybody's excited. And I'm like, I just didn't realize.
I'm guessing a lot of people, as we learned through COVID, you thought you were all alone, right?
100%.
And you find out that while you were, there was a lot of people walking the same path that you were. You just had to find them. And if you didn't come to Shaun's Cornerstone Forum, I'll tell you my personal experience and why I really encourage you to come is I was very outgoing prior to COVID, very social, very involved in the community. And COVID, whatever, hit me upside the head with it like a 2x4. And I really questioned a lot. And people I thought I could trust and people that I thought were good and systems. I mean, we don't need to rehash the COVID thing. But since then, I would say I've went from being extremely extroverted to extremely introverted. And I'm very private. You'd asked me to come on a couple of times earlier this year, and I just want to keep my business, and keep my friend list very short. I'm very careful about who comes into our home, and I'm very comfortable sitting at the arena all by myself. And while I made those decisions on purpose, it also feels good to socialize. But who do you socialize with when there's so few that are awake or aware or care or understand or alert? And so every year when you say you should come, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to be out with people, and you've done this to me a few times, and I owe you many thank yous. But I'm like, I got to support Shaun. So I'm going to come. We'll find a way. I'll figure out how to be an extrovert again for a day. And I'm guessing we all feel the same. And then all of a sudden you get in there, there's an energy, there's a vibe. And you sit down at a table and you're like, oh, everybody's been kind of pre-filtered here. So we're all good. So nobody's going to judge anybody. Nobody's going to be mad. Oh, well, I'm Ken. This is my wife, Jennifer. And you want to have lunch together? And there's I'm smiling as I'm talking about it. I can't wait for the Cornerstone Forum again. So if you feel like I'm describing it all, challenge yourself to come out and socialize with this group of people. There's an energy in the place. And if there's bad people there, which of course there probably is, but they're pretty rare. Seems to be a pretty good collection. Now, Shaun, your Cornerstone Forum, what are the dates for this year again?
March 28th is the Cornerstone Forum. It's at the Calgary Weston Airport Hotel. So we moved it this year because we had 3 minor, but 3 complaints that were kind of consistent. Cold feet from the arena floor, sound from not only the glass, but the trade show, and then stairs. There was some people that were just elderly and we're struggling with the stairs going down into the bowl. And so we went and looked at the Weston, and what it does is it does more than that, because for me, one of the challenges that I struggle with is efficiency, picking people up from the airport, getting them 20 minutes away, and and on and on. Calgary Weston Airport, if you're flying in, it's 24/7 shuttle to the hotel. And once you're at the hotel, it's all there. And then it allowed us to do one other thing. Friday night, we have a social now. So now as it sits right now, I think, once again, this is recorded before December 31st. We just passed 225 tickets sold. 80 some of those, actually, I don't even know if that's correct anymore. 80 some are coming to the Friday night social, which is just in the hotel. It's nothing crazy. It's going to be just a room that people can come and meet other guests, and it's just something to come in the night before. But you can literally get a shuttle to and from the hotel. You don't have to rent a car. Once you're in the hotel, it is gorgeous. And then the conference hall is right in it. So you can walk right into it. It gets rid of the cold feet. It gets rid of, it doesn't have glass or anything from a sound quality. And then the trade show is actually separated from the actual show. So if you want to go and have conversations, I'm all for it. But there will be a wall so it won't interrupt what's going on stage. And I think that'll be also a benefit to the show this year.
Sure. Do you have a sellout number?
700.
700. Okay. Well, and we know some of your guests, and Shaun and I, you've shared with me a surprise guest who's confirmed, but we can't say the name. But there's a big name coming that will be named, I guess, when you're ready to name, or this person's ready to be named.
We just got to finalize things. So I get really excited about it, but then I'm like, I know how this goes. And so until it's like confirm, we're just going through the hurdles, and the hurdles take time. And I'm hoping, honestly, I hope it's announced before this episode comes out.
Yeah.
But if it isn't, it's because there's hurdles going on, which means probably in January we're going to announce one. But the other names that are coming, Martin Armstrong is coming back, Tom Luongo, Alex Craner, Vince Lanci, who had heart problems last year, but who all the guests went for supper the night after. And they were saying, well, what's the one guy that you would have here? And they all said Vince Lanci. So reached out to Vince. He's over the moon. He's coming. You got Matt Arrett and Sam Cooper. Sam Cooper's new. And I've been wanting to have a debate on China. I wanted it last year. Couldn't get Sam, and he said he'd come this year. And so I have Sam Cooper coming. And the whole goal, and Matt's game for it, I believe Sam's game for it, is they're going to have a debate. It's going to be the first debate at the Cornerstone Forum ever. And it's going to be on China. And because Matt Arrett paints one version of China, and Sam Cooper definitely paints a different version. I'm just like, well, let's put these two people on stage and let's just have it out. In a respectful way, I assume, but you're going to have two very intellectual guys going back and forth about that. I'm always big on positivity. Ever since Blaine Steffen's wife went to an event before the first Cornerstone Forum on a Friday night, she said, Blaine, I don't know. I'm sorry, folks, if I'm getting part of the story wrong, but the gist of it was, I don't know if I can sit through another day of just hearing how bad the world is. And she leaned over to him, in the first 40 minutes of it. And she's like, this has a different vibe. I'm glad I came. I'm glad you brought me. And so we always add in, last year's it was a solution in a world full of problems. This year's is a path forward in a troubled world. And so Chad Prather's coming. He's a Texas comedian that he has some succinct thoughts that I think will be very good. Karen Katowski is the one who talks about discussion and freedom is given to the people who have it, not to the ones that were most oppressed. I thought that was a very powerful thought. And so those two, and I'm waiting to announce the third one who will join them. And that roundtable is really, last year it was Kalen Ford and Chase Barber and Rod Giltaka talking about different things that were happening in society. Right now, I think ideas and keeping a positive mindset are so important when you stare at Mark Carney being one away from a liberal majority. And I agree with Twos. I assume that's coming in 2026. And it's like, what do? They pump you full of fear. They try and suck out all the things that make it look like anything is possible. And I'm like, I know that's not true. And they can say whatever they want. So I always try and find a way to inject a little bit of positivity into that. And Tom Bodrovics is back as a host. Twos is going to be in a new role this year. He is going to be emceeing the day. So he's going to be introducing all the guests.
You'd be good at that.
I think so. Yeah.
Of course you would.
Yeah. Me and
Yeah.
Twos had a long chat about it. He always gives me a hard time. Oh, he didn't like my hosting ability on a roundtable. And I'll say it again on air now. It had nothing to do with that. One of the things that I did not realize about bringing in all the hosts was I thought I could put them with an A-list group and boom, and it's just magic. But if there's no familiarity, then it has clunkiness. And I'm like, oh, I guess I know all these people, so I should probably be hosting just a touch more. And I give a ton of credit to the Prairie Rising Forum for bringing me out. I tried doing the same thing, removing myself from hosting duties and really just being a facilitator. And they said, Shaun, we wanted you because we like what you do on stage. So you were going on stage. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah, all right, I'll do that. And it kind of reminded me of like, I know all these people. I have an idea in my head. Nobody else can do what my idea is. Shout out to Chris Sims for pointing that out as well. And so I'm like, okay, I need to be on the charting a pathway forward in a troubled world. I need to be on the geopolitical roundtable. I think I'm probably going to have to navigate the debate because it's my idea of these two people. I've interviewed them both several times now, and I just see their arguments, and I'm like, well, I just want to see them collide. I just want to see what comes out of that. And is it a winner or a loser? I don't know. I just want people to have to think about China because we're told on one end they are literally the worst thing ever. Jamie Sinclair, yeah, I know you're fist pumping because you're like, they are. And then I'm told in a different realm by a lot of people I respect that they're not the culprit, that, the city of London and things like that are the actual culprit. I'm like, well, why don't we just have them face off?
No, I agree with them because you're now a professional communicator and you're in the know on all these topics. And you that's what you do for a living is to bring the ideas and thoughts out of people. So to me, it'd be like having a hockey team and bringing in Alexander Ovechkin and him saying, you know what, I'm not going to do any shooting today. I'll let other people do the shooting. It's like, no, Ovechkin, you are the shooter.
I know. It just feels weird because I don't think of myself as a professional anything. I still feel like the same kid who flicked the mic on with you 6 years ago and was just like, yeah, this will be fun. And I just want to sit on this side. I want to listen to people. And I see other people and I'm like, that is a smart cookie. Mm-hmm. And I want them to talk. I don't want to talk. I want to get out of the way and let them talk. But when it comes to facilitating discussion, I've been thinking a lot about it. It's like you have to do what you do normally, and that's what you do. You bring discussion out. And so I guess when you go back to the Cornerstone Forum, the big thing is today, as you're listening to this, December 31st, I hope people are tuning in, is the last day for early bird prices. So like you can buy a ticket later on. I'm a huge procrastinator. I do this all the time where I could have got the early bird ticket and saved myself a boatload of money, and instead I wait until a week before, and then I go buy the expensive one and I kick myself. And I'm like, just buy the early bird ticket. If you're going to come, just go buy it. You're saving yourself money. And whether or not the big guest gets announced before or in January or it doesn't happen, the cast of characters coming, Larry C. Johnson is another one that just got announced. The lineup is going to be a ton of fun. The day is going to be a ton of fun. If the headline speaker for all intensive purposes is Martin Armstrong again, Martin is going to have some things to say. Last year, he wrote an entire paper and talked about Alberta independence, right? Like, there's going to be things there that are just going to be worthwhile to be in the crowd for. on top of the community that's going to show up.
Yeah.
And when I go, you asked how many people is a sellout? 700. And that may seem like, oh, you're only at 225. There's plenty of tickets. It's like, yeah, but we had 650 people there last year. And we're already outpacing where we were a year ago at the same time.
And the world's in a tougher spot, and your speakers are more
and I still, as I record this, I still have like a week.
Just get your tickets.
To push.
Buy your tickets.
Buy your tickets and come. And you won't regret it.
No.
I don't. Lots of things I do, I'm like, oh yeah, you can whatever, you can catch it later. You don't have to watch it. But I'm like, the Cornerstone Forum is one of my pride and joys that I've created, and I've had to argue with speakers about 13.5-minute keynote speeches, and they're always staring at me, and I've drilled it into them where nobody argues anymore. Like they just get it. They get what I'm doing, and now they've probably seen the success of doing it the way I want to do it, and I've gained confidence in doing it the way I want to do it, and I've had tons of feedback from lots of people. They're just like, I've been to lots of conferences. They never stay on time. I had a guy in Regina come up to me, and he said, you were going to be done. You told me at the start of the day you were going to be done at 4:35. And you said, but don't hold me to that. Like, there could be a couple of things, because we had a ton of people calling in because they'd had, a bunch of people not be able to make it to Regina for pretty unbelievable reasons. Regardless. He comes up to me and he goes, you said 4:35 and it is 4:32. I marked it down. I cannot believe you can do that. And I'm like, I don't think it's that hard. But obviously it's not something, you go to the UCP AGM. Now that's 4,000 people and everything else. They had a point. How long was it, folks? They had at a point where I thought I'd missed Daniel Smith's speak. She started like an hour late. Ooh. Because of security and getting that many people through. And I'm going, you really didn't think trying to get 4,000 people through metal detectors was going to slow people down? Who's running that? I know that, you have to adjust. Having 200 people eat versus having 700 people eat changes things. And so you have to be conscious of that. Otherwise, you will no doubt run over time. And I guess I just didn't realize that that's a skill I have. And I don't know, I'm not normally OCD, but in that event, I am a little bit anal when it comes to every second. Tuz was talking to me today, and I'm like, man, I don't know, I maybe got an extra 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then I started laughing. I'm like, and he's like, no, I get it. And I'm like, you didn't get it? I'm like, of all things Tuz to say today, that you get that is funny to me, because it was only 2 years ago they were bugging me on stage about being the time cop and Shaun and his time and everything, but it's starting to show. This is why the event is different. You come, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not. Yeah. It's going to start and end on time.
No, you're very good at it. Because even though, like, a lot of people that speak want to keep speaking.
Yes.
And they don't want to hand up the mic. When we were doing the Saskia Night thing in Saskatchewan, and because I hadn't done it a lot, it's hard to pry the mic out of somebody's hands that you respect, and they're there out of their own. And you're very good at, it could be Daniel Smith up with the mic, and you've got a timer in front of her, and you tell her it's 12 minutes, right? And you have a way of interrupting people with, you show respect, but you also show it's a non-negotiable. Like I don't know how you do it, but you balance it.
Well, people were wondering if I was going to interrupt Martin Armstrong, and I'm like, listen, folks, full stop. Yeah. I was nervous to do that. I'm like, Martin's on a roll. Do I go out there? But I'm like looking at the time, and he's a minute over, and I'm like, I gotta. And so I'm talking to his assistant. She's like, no, go interrupt him. I'm like, oh. And I can see everybody's look on their faces. I'm coming out on the stage and Martin's sitting there. But it's funny. I haven't, I've had one argument out of any Cornerstone Forum speaker that I had to be firm on, and not on stage, in an actual conversation leading up over 13.5 minutes. And after that, I've had, Martin Armstrong doesn't turn around and go, get off the stage. He goes, no. Oh yeah, for sure. And then we sit down and we carry on.
And you got 650 people in the crowd, and there's rules of public speaking, as you would know better than any of us, is people need a bathroom break every so often. People only have attention span of so long, and so even though there might be 3 people in the audience that could listen to one speaker talk for 4 hours.
Really cemented this for me, and I'm hoping I sent him a video of the studio, because he's a big reason why he made me think this way, was Brett Kissel. I went and watched.
Right.
I got
Professional entertainer.
I literally got to go watch. Not a watch. Actually, if you can believe this, folks, I got to introduce Brett Kissel on stage with, forgive me, I forget her name now. But it was somebody from the radio station in Lloyd. Either way, we went out and we worked as a duo on the stage, and we got to introduce. And so I got to sit and watch a Brett Kissel concert in Lloyd. Now, is Brett Kissel Garth Brooks? I assume Brett Kissel would agree with me. No, you're not. You are a fantastic singer. But what I will say about Brett Kissel, great singer, unbelievable ability on stage to recognize when a crowd is fading in and out, and the rhythm to change things on the roll and keep them sucked in. I just watched it. I just sat there and watched it. I'm like, wow, that is attention to detail. And I've taken the way he runs a concert to running a conference, because I've watched. How many halls have we sat in? I mean, you've sat in more than I. Where somebody, instead of talking for 15 minutes, 25 minutes. I've seen Tamara Leach talk for 45. I've seen James Lindsay talk for 45. And when you have a true keynote, large speaker, that's what the event's for. Nobody else. And it's going to be a 2-hour event, and 45 minutes of it is one speaker. Okay. But when you have a long day, it's going to be 4 or 5 hours, and somebody talks for an hour and a half. I don't care who you are. You could have Jordan Peterson up on there. When you got 3 other speakers, you're like, oh, I got to pee. I can just imagine if you're a smoker, your brain starts going other places, no matter how engaging they are.
Yeah, there's rules. So of course, I was going to tell you, Brett Kissel, have I ever told you this before? He's got links back to this area.
Of course he does.
Did I tell you this?
I don't know.
So
if you don't know this about Kenny, if there's somebody out there that is related to somebody who's related, Kenny's going to be the man. You're like an encyclopedia of genealogy for the area.
So he's from St. Paul area, and my wife is from Elk Point. And so my wife was friends with a guy named Derek Germain. And Derek Germain moved out to Paradise Hill, across the river from us here. And I played senior hockey with him, with the Paradise Hill Hawks. He was a goalie there, played with St. Paul Canadians. Then he came and played in Paradise Hill. And so was buddies with Derek. And when we were up in Sherwood Park, Derek would say on a Friday, hey, come on over. Brett's coming over. He's in town singing at an old folks home, or he's in town singing at the church or something like that. And that kid must have been, I don't know, 8?
Yeah, he was young. If you go back 8? And listen to his story when he was on the podcast, he started super young.
And that kid he's the real deal. Like his face beamed, and he would just pick up the guitar, and there'd be my wife and our little kids and his uncle and aunt, Derek and Tracy, and just loved to sing. And wonderful kids. So anyways, so let's move on. So one other comment for you is two of your key sponsors are Bow Valley Credit Union and Silver Gold Bull. And when they first came on, it looked like a match. I remember going like, oh yeah, that's a match actually. And as time goes on, the fit gets tighter and tighter and tighter, right? When you think about what's happened to inflation, government rules, lack of trust in institutions, right? It's like, oh man, that's a fit. And now we look and see what gold and silver are doing.
I'm glad you bring it up.
Because it's oh shoot, man. Thank you. I am a silver collector. Thank you very much, Shaun and Silver Gold.
Twos gives me crap about this all the time. Yeah. The time he came,
would I hear this? I love this for that.
The time he came, and I didn't give him a silver coin when he was in studio, because I always give somebody a silver, and I'm like, oh, I just didn't even think about it, right? Like I was, we're co-hosting a show. I don't think to give the co-host a show. And I was driving out here tonight. I'm like, you're giving Kenny a silver coin. And then we got sitting here talking. I forgot all about it. I'm glad you brought it up. So to all those who don't know, anyone who sits in the studio across from me gets a silver coin from Silver Gold Bull. And I want to look it up again, because every time I look at the
it was up
price,
another 3% today, I think it was. I look at it daily. For anybody that's considering
$92.84.
Look what it's done in the 30 days, Shaun. Look what it was 30 days ago.
I'm trying to see if I can do it on my phone here. Okay.
Per ounce price, not the maple price.
30 days ago would have been...
Do you have one of those graphs that throws it up for 30?
November 28th. So that was... November 27th. We're at the 19th, right? It was 70... 142 roughly.
71.42 30 days ago, and you just said it's 92. Buy silver. Everybody buy silver.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And go through
basis.
And the thing about silver, gold, bull.
I mean, anything that's precious metals or real asset.
Like I got a ton of time for silver, gold, bull, and Bow Valley Credit Union because they literally have been helping do things that I would have never been able to do. And when you buy through, if you're going to buy precious metals, buy through silver, gold, bull, because they are watching everything, and it only lends to them sticking with me longer, not less, right? Because they're keeping track of how much money goes through the podcast toward them. Like how many people reference the podcast, and they keep track of it. And it's been really interesting to know that people are listening and buying silver and gold and, and on and on.
I delayed for years buying silver because I didn't know what to do. Like,
well, you remember I was telling you this story. You remember I went a few years ago to the Lloyd, it was a trade show, Christmas Expo.
Yeah.
And there was a silver guy in there.
Yeah.
And I bought, I don't know, maybe it was $300.
Guarantee he's a quirky dude too.
Maybe $300 for it. It wasn't this crazy amount, but it was like old coins because I'd known from Martin Armstrong before, is it 65 or 69? Doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but there's a year in the 60s where if you go before that, it's like 80% silver in quarters and everything, right? And so I bought a whole couple of sheets. He had these books, and I said, what's your most rare silver coin you have? And it was like a $30 coin back then. And I think about that, and I'm like, man, and we talked about it. We're like, we should just go out and see this guy and buy a whole bunch of silver. But everyone's kind of, I don't know. And here you sit where it's gone up.
Junk silver and there's.
Yeah. But it's been 30 days. It's gone up $20.
Just go buy any silver, right? But you know what would be a good podcast is with Bow Valley Credit Union, because I was listening to him when you interviewed him last. Is right now I just buy physical, and Rhett and I, we were up with some jiu-jitsu stuff. He's like, I don't know. I'm like, listen, here's what you do. Go get some cash out of your account. Let's stop at a coin shop and just go buy some. Like just walk in and say, I'll take maples, silver maples. It's that easy. And silver gold bull, send them right to your door. Right.
Well, the thing is, you go online. Everything's online with silver gold bull, and you just buy it, and they just ship it right to you.
Yeah. Where we're going to, so with Bow Valley Credit Union, he was mentioning some ways of holding it in, like, can you hold it in tax-free savings accounts or in your RSPs? Or I think he was mentioning somewhere where you can actually have it on, they'll store it for you and
you can use it. You can, yes.
I
tell you what,
should do a podcast with them.
I tell you what, Brett,
yeah.
If you're listening, we'll find a way to make that
all these
happen.
Pensions and people's investments.
And it'd be a good time before the deadline. March 2nd is the deadline for RSP contributions. And you can do that through Silver Gold Bull.
I'd like to hear that on because this is new territory. Like, I've got a commerce degree in MBA, and I don't know any of that. But anyways, I'd like to learn more. So I buy my family silver coins every year for Christmas, and I write down the date I bought it and how much I paid for it. 2 Christmases ago, I pulled them out a week ago, $34 for a maple. That wasn't per ounce. That was per maple. 2 years ago. Now we're at that $92 is per ounce. So throw, what is it, $3 or $4 on it to put the queen's or the king's head on it. So that's got to be a $96 coin now. $34 2 Christmas ago, $94, $95 today.
Shout out to Kyle Koza and his family, because their kids are into buying silver, and they talk about, they're just like, went up 2% today. Last time I was there, it was like, it went up 2% today. This is amazing. I'm sure they're like celebrating right now, because you can imagine having kids putting their hard-earned money into more silver and then watching it just go through the roof. It's like, I don't know. It has been wild to watch, right? Because, when I first started out, I was like, I go back to this conversation with Daniel Smith all the time. I remember being like, I don't know if I can give you a silver coin. She was like, well, what's it worth? I think it was $38. I should just go back and listen so I know the facts right. She's like, oh, anything under $500 I can have. Oh, here's a silver coin. Now I'm like,
I'll bet you by next Christmas you can't give it to her.
Yeah, right? At this pace.
504.
Yeah, it'll be 504. Sorry, Danielle.
Cut it in half.
I can give you some junk silver. That's all I can give you.
No, that's good. Anyways, so it'd be nice to hear more on that. And the strong match for you. So now we've talked about your highs. Let's talk about Shaun. If you're okay, then I'll ask you the question. And if you're like, you know what, I'd rather not talk about it, then don't talk about it, because you got to keep a little PCU for you too. But what's a low? What was a struggle for you this year?
Oh, what was a low? And that's a tough question. It's not because I'm sitting here going, I can't talk about these things. It's, and I don't mean to make my life sound like it's perfect. It's probably far from it. I mean, I don't know. The thing that comes to mind is we had our dog pass away. That sucked. That was a tough moment, but out of tough moments come really interesting things, like my kids all got to say goodbye to a dog that's been there longer than they have. And that was a lot of tears and a lot of interesting conversations, hard conversations. But like, as a father, I go, good. Like, I don't want to see Bane pass away. That sucked. But to shield my kids from it, Mel and I had talked. They got to say goodbye to the pet, And so that was a tough day. And it's funny, like that's the one thing, that's a tough question because it's like, what is the low of the year? Man, it isn't all the junk going on in the world, right? Like we can go down some dark rabbit holes, but like, like this comes back to your no drinking thing. And the conversation we had when you're like, look at what you've done with your life. And I'm like, oh yeah, got to think about that for a bit. And I don't know. One of the things I like about a year in review is someday I hope my kids will go back and listen. And it's just been a really good year.
Enjoy that. What a blessing it is to say that.
Well, I don't always take everything everyone tells me and just implement it. But the people closest to me, and even Brett Olin and Nick Morianos know this. I don't like going to Calgary. And the reason I don't like going to Calgary isn't the drive. It's because then I got to be away from the wife and kids. And so Nick will be like trying to convince me to Calgary, and then he'll be like, I know. Maybe we should just do it over Zoom because, I know you don't want to leave your family. And the reason that I'm so like stuck on that is, one of the things I did early on in the podcast, which I was very, very fortunate. The Lloyd Archives hired me to interview community pillars who were roughly the youngest, maybe 60. The oldest, I think, was like 95. You know how many people in that age demographic hear you have kids and say, it goes by in a blink of an eye? Don't you dare let that slip by. You be a part of those kids' lives. You make sure you cherish every moment. And when you hear it that many times, you're like, yeah, I don't want to miss it. Like when we first got into different realms, both of us, you ran for the Maverick Party and I sat with all the leadership because I strongly considered it. But somewhere in the back of my brain, I'd had all these conversations with all these, community pillars and elders of mine. And they all, when you looked at what you were going to give up, I just went, I'm going to give up way too much. And although the world is spiraling, if I were to win, which was a complete long shot, but I'm like, if I win, I'm going to miss out on their childhood. And I don't want that. I just don't. And it's like, I don't always take the lessons, this, because at times I can be pretty hard-headed. Go back to drilling water wells and you tell me what I should do and being like, no, I'm doing it my own way. But when you get it told enough times, don't let your kids, like their childhoods, disappear on you. That's something that tons of people talk about. And I've become very, like, I'm not missing it. And the not drinking thing, do I have bad days? Oh yeah, everybody has a bad day, but I don't have consistently bad days. And so I get to coach and I get to be just crazy busy, and sometimes you're tired out and everything, but I'm around my kids, like I've been praying for Mila every night. She asked me to pray for her. Forgive me for not fully understanding, but like nightmares and that type of thing. And so I said, do you want me to pray for you? She said, yeah, sure. So now, I'm leaving to come out here, and it was only like 7:00. She's like, you're leaving? I'm like, yeah. She's like, can you pray for me right now? And I'm like, sure. And like, so I prayed for her and she gave me a big hug and like, she just told on, I'll miss you. And, and it's like, that's the stuff that brings you up. And so I'd love to sit here and say, what's the hardest part? I don't know. There's lots of struggles in running the podcast, but I don't know, compared to, like some other people and the struggles they're going through, I think it's been a pretty good year.
On the kids growing up so quickly, all the old people would say that to me. And when it's your first kids, people have heard me on the podcast. We have 6 kids. And when the old people would say, older, being middle-aged, say, oh, enjoy those days. It goes by in an instant. I know what it's like when you've got diapers to change, kid in hockey, somebody's got to get to music lessons, the car needs to be picked up from the shop. You're like, what do you mean this goes by fast? Like, I haven't slept in like 8 years, which means my wife hasn't slept in 12, right? And this is not going fast until they go. And what I find is it's the minute they hit puberty is because they're growing a little bit each year. And all of a sudden you wake up one morning, they walk up the stairs and they have a deep voice and they got some hair on the top of their lip if they're a boy, and they're almost as tall as you. And that goes by just so fast because they're growing so quickly, and for the females as well. And so with Benny, our surprise number 6, I was like, okay, I know how fast this goes now, so I'm going to relish every moment. Thank God I'm not drinking hardly. And even though I put everything into every minute I'm with little Ben, it still goes by lightning quick. And so here, things I'm hearing out of you is praying with Mila is, what's the scripture, Shaun, that says, raise a child in the way, and when they're old, they will not depart, right? So thankful to my older kids. I'm sorry. I wish we would have done this. And I failed in so many ways, but me and the boys that are at home and my wife, we pray every morning. We read the Bible every morning. We pray every morning. We practice gratefulness. So we have to say something that we're very grateful that we have in our life, and we're grateful for something to experience. And I watch my boys pray, and they know it's real, right? If dad thinks it's real, and if mom thinks it's real, and I notice it does a good thing in my life. So look at little Mila saying, Dad, before you go, could you pray for me? If she didn't think it was real, she wouldn't ask you to pray for her. So good on you. And then the whole not drinking thing is, again, if I could go back in time, I would have made this decision a lot earlier. Is think of all the extra moments you had with your children this year. That moment to pray, because Dad wasn't hungover. He wasn't out, at beer league hockey till 2 a.m. You were there to pray with her every single one of those nights. And a big part of that is because of no drinking, right? So you can see that they're linked. You can't separate them. So good on you, Shaun. Really good. I know. Am I interrupting? Do you have any thoughts before we move along?
Well, it's
your show. So
no. But one of the reasons I bring you on is so that you don't, because I can sit and we can talk this for 6 hours. Because it's just you talk about the year, and it's like a hard moment was my son starting football.
Yeah.
And getting him in the car, and it was something that I'm not a football guy. I don't know. Like I know the game and I've watched it, but I didn't. I don't know. And he's 9. He's going up against 12-year-olds, and they are big 12-year-olds, and there's full contact. And, one of the things I love now about football is it doesn't, like hockey's, we're slowly phasing out contact because we're like, oh, it's such danger. And then I watch football. I'm like, they got 9-year-olds going up against 12-year-olds.
Yeah, rugby, football.
Right. It's just cool. So we get in the car after the first practice, and he doesn't know anyone. He doesn't know the game. He doesn't know the terms. I can't help him. And he comes in and he just melts. He just balls. I'm not going back. And I go, buddy, you've signed up for it? And he goes, I know what you're going to say. And he's yelling at me. And I'm like.
Like in Shaun Newman style, hey? You can tell he's got a piece of.
I'm like, we'll go home and you can talk to your mom. So he goes home and, Mel says roughly the same thing. But let's go to sleep on it. Let's just. And anyways. They had a pool party after the second practice. And so we just used that. We're like, well, there's a pool party. So I want to go to the pool party. All right, I'll go to the second practice. So he gets in the vehicle after the second practice. What do you think? It wasn't so bad. Now he wants to quit everything to just play football. And this is when you go, what are the low moments? What? I don't know. They could have been a low moment. Instead, my son finds a way to push through something very uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable. I would have been uncomfortable as a kid, not knowing anyone, getting run over by big kids. And, I can just imagine who's this little thing. To loving a sport, doing whatever he could. The coaching staff was unreal. Like, it was really cool to watch. And so, like the no drinking thing is just like, I don't know. I didn't look at it like I was giving up that much. But then one night, and I've never thought of myself as a drunk, so I've never had to use the word sober. And Mel said it just kind of, just kind of like off the cuff, something along the lines of, we really like sober Shaun because he's always there. And I don't think she realized how important that meant to me because, I didn't know if I'd actually changed that much. I told you I was waiting for the 6-month mark because I'd listened to a lot of people talking about the 6-month mark and really notice a change. I didn't notice a change. I didn't notice a change at 3 months. It wasn't like all of a sudden I just had more energy or anything. It wasn't anything like that. But the comment from my wife was very interesting because she was right. Coming out here tonight, she doesn't have to worry about me hitting a ditch because I'm drank a bottle of scotch or something. She's just like, he'll be home. And the reason is because I'm not drinking. And I've done it now.
You have coffee on your breath instead of...
Well, that's the thing, right? You come out here and it's full of coffee and whatever else. But it's just funny. Those stick out to me this year more than anything. And, I don't know if we're going to get into this. I assume we are. But if I go back to when we started the book club, I'd wrote about it in 2018 that I wanted to change 17 things. But then I did this, I tried figuring out the root cause. And the root cause to me back then was drinking. Because of drinking, I eat like crap. I sleep like crap. I don't exercise enough because it's an offshoot of that. And I can keep saying this, but I'm but it still took me 6 full years to finally go, okay, I get it now. And so if you're wrestling with something like that, don't beat yourself up because we all wrestle with things like that. What I can say on the other side is I'd built this thing up in my head like it was going to be so hard and I was going to lose everything. But I haven't lost any. I don't know. Did I lose any friends over it? Really? No.
If you lost a friend because you stopped drinking, that they weren't really a friend.
That's right.
You had so many things in life. A couple things that come to my mind, Shaun, is now that I'm middle-aged, you just get to see, when you have more years on you, you just get to see more. So that's why those 95-year-olds have so much value. Is they just seen more. And if you had a year where you're like, you know what, we lost a dog, son with his football, be thankful.
Right.
You had a blessed year because, as we know, people get sick. People have car
People get sick. I go, the dark days.
We'll have days where if we do this every year, there'll be days that we got to shut it off for a while because there'll be a tear in your eye, right? Or our mind. And so you had a good year. So thanks be to God for that.
Agreed. And I don't think this, can it continue? Sure. But you just look at my parents, for instance, they're both turning 70 next year. And you go, do they got 20 years left? 30 years left? They got 2 years left. I certainly hope it's the former. I hope they got a lot of time left. But a man that we both respected, and Frank Mann, passed away at 72. And you just go...
Reg Hagel.
Right. And
just
you go...
1 minute to there, 1 minute, next minute to not.
Right. And so, I'm just trying to... just breathe it in, I interviewed, this goes way before all the COVID stuff. I interviewed Ray Ferraro, and he told me, just be where your feet are. And I think about that.
Hockey Ray Ferraro?
Yeah. Huh. Well, he just said, be where your feet are.
It's a good one. Be present.
Yeah. Just, and so we got a lot of distraction. I'm no perfect man on it, right? You got a phone tied to you all the time. I can get sucked in at different times,
sure.
But just be where your feet are, and even the pain, there's beauty that can come out of it, right? So,
well, if there's two, for anybody that is struggling with that, if there's, you and I would usually be, if we weren't the last two, we're amongst getting out of the Hitman dressing room, right?
I was the last guy out of the Hitman dressing room all the time. I loved that room.
Maybe you locked it up, or I locked it up.
I don't regret those years.
No, those are fun, but part of being present is being sober. Right, is to be in the moment, right? To be really, truly in the moment with somebody special is I think it'd be tough to do that when you're drunk or high, right? That's my view. But came to my attention, first of all, Shaun, the last year we did this, there was one episode that you came out with that was the number one episode of your year previous. And before we get into talking about your top 10 episodes of this year,
sure.
let's just touch base on that one for a moment. And that was, why don't you set the table on that one?
Well, Chris King gets removed. He's the coach of the year. He wins a national championship. They go undefeated. And then he gets removed for a girl having, I don't know, an issue at a practice. And so then, I interviewed some of the teammates, and then I interviewed a couple more. And anyways, that episode had, in the first, I think it was like the first day and a half, 125,000 people watched it. And I was just like, what the, what had happened?
The first day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the number one episode of 2024. And that was interesting to me because I was thinking about it. That was the high watermark. The high watermark before that, when I was talking about it, was 34, 38,000, somewhere in there. That was my first high watermark. I'd never hit that high. And then it was 125. And this year it's, beyond that. But regardless, the Chris King story, and people have asked me, will you need a follow-up? And I'm like, well, it's in court. And the guy I want to have on is Chris King. And I talk to Chris quite a lot, I see him.
Is it in court right now? Because I don't even know. It's kind of went radio silent.
Well, that's, from my understanding is it still is. It'd be interesting to hear Chris just be like, I can't talk on it. I assume he can't. But as soon as he can, my plan is to bring him on, because I think for myself, it would be something really, really interesting, and I followed that up. Carmen Zayak came on and talked about her dealings with Lakeland. And, that was it. It doesn't happen too often, Lloyd, but after I'd had that, I was walking around Lloyd, and I was having people stop in the middle of the street yelling out the window saying, keep going. That's freaking awesome. And I'm like, all right, And that was a first in a long time that I've had that notoriety, I guess, if I could say it that way, where, that was a pretty wild couple of weeks of covering a local story that really hit a nerve.
Yeah, the humans, we are individuals, but we're also an organism together. And once in a while, something just rolls through, and that caught the interest of the public, didn't it? So, I actually didn't know if there was closure to it, if you've reached out to him or... Well,
I've ran into him lots, and the last time I asked him about it, because he's not allowed to come on, folks, and talk about it, right? They're in the middle of... I still think it's in the middle of court. I think that's where it's sitting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's 2024. Now let's talk 2025, Shaun.
Sure.
Now, when you rank your top 10 episodes, you do it by what, counts or views or clicks, or how do you, what qualifies to get an episode into the top 10?
Yeah. We talked about this last year because they changed it. Like Spotify, it used to be downloads, but then they found, if you didn't open it, it automatically downloads. So then I went to plays, and you had to listen to it for so long. So that is how we get the numbers and the statistics. It's I'm super beyond skeptical at this point of anybody who has hold of my data and then tells me what's going on.
You're not suggesting the social media platforms play numbers or games, do you, Shaun?
That's exactly what we both know is happening. Yeah. So it's hard to know.
What's that statement where it's like, they know that I know
that they know. Right? Yeah. And it's totally true. Yeah. So the numbers bug me because I'm like, that's interesting. Dallas Brody, for instance, that I just released. It was interesting to watch it on social media because it got no traction in the interview. Then I put up a clip of it, and the clip had 26,000 people watch it in the first 24 hours. And I'm like, that's interesting. So was it the way it was broadcasted? Was it, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. What I do know from going through Freedom Convoy, COVID, all that stuff, is at times I know for sure I'm just shadow banned and nobody can find anything I'm doing, which really sucks. So the numbers come off of a bunch of statistics that I can pull from different social media platforms. I always take them with a bit of a grain of salt, but at the same time, there's other people that are doing very well. And so maybe at times just it isn't doing as well as it should, and that could be too. But that's why I have the cell phone, and people text me, and I can tell when an episode really just blows it out of the water. You can just see the interaction. A high interaction episode usually correlates to how well an episode's going to do. So yeah, the top 10 is based off of all the statistics I can pull in, but that's become something I'm going to have to be way better on. I used to be able to just do it at the end of a year, go back through a year, and I found that is becoming more difficult on certain platforms to gather all the data from.
Right.
That didn't used to be.
What is data? Like, we're trusting the numbers, like, to verify what you're saying. When I was still believed in politics, when I was involved with the Sask United Party, is there'd be a video that would go out and it would hit, and there'd be 7,400 views in the first afternoon, and you'd wake up the next morning to see what it went to, and it'd be at 3,800. It would literally decline, right, the number of views. So I'd watch it with my own eyes. So, but regardless, I wonder from a statistical perspective, assuming that they're mucking with all of your numbers, we still have a ranking of the most to the least.
Correct.
So we can still say, but these are your top 10 roasts. They probably mucked with your numbers. They probably are throttling you back. But let's talk about, or you, what did you want to talk about?
Well, I was just going to say the number one episode.
Or do you want to go 10 to 1?
No.
Okay.
I watched the numbers as we were doing it because it was live, and it was insane. It was literally insane. And we'll get to the number one episode, but we might as well go 10 to 1.
Sure. Okay, let's go 10.
Well, number 10 is the Alberta Prosperity Project. I'd had on, it was close to right after Carney gets elected, and I'd had Mitch Sylvester and Dennis Modry and Jeff Rath come on to talk about what they were doing. And that's what number 10 episode is. That should surprise nobody. Like they were getting the number that I've been told again and again is they were getting 5,000 people signing up an hour as soon as the Liberals won, right? And so I brought them on to talk about what they were doing. And that was the number 10 episode. I don't think that's any shock. But it is, it's a timely episode about a local, relatively, a province. But, I'm an Alberta podcaster is what most people would consider me now. I consider myself Western Canada because I have lots of great ties to Saskatchewan. But regardless, I bring on the Alberta Prosperity Project to talk about what they're doing. And that hit number 10. That was episode 844.
I could see another one of those episodes doing well in the upcoming year, because I don't think that those issues are going away anytime soon.
Well, they're going to have they're going to have their question, I would think, through, and they'll have the petition going here. I think early 2026 is what I understand, and if that happens, I'm certainly going to bring on some people to talk about it.
Okay, let's go to number 9.
Scott McGregor. This is probably a name that nobody remembers. He's the CSIS agent. I actually just had it pulled up so I could...
I've got to re-listen to that one because I'm sitting here... I don't catch every one of your episodes, but it's almost every episode. The odd time...
Here, give me...
Scott McGregor.
Give me 1 second. I had it pulled up, and then, of course, I closed my phone.
I got to re-listen. I'm going to write it down as we're talking.
So, Scott McGregor was on episode 821. He's a Canadian intelligence expert and co-authored The Mosaic Effect, How the Chinese Communist Party Started a Hybrid War in America's Backyard. And he came on to talk about things from a Canadian intelligence perspective. And the reason I got him on the podcast was because of a cop I'd had on. And he said, if you're interested, I have some dealings with some former CSIS guys. And I was like, sure. I've never had a CSIS guy on before. And honestly, when I did the numbers, I was like, Scott McGregor's number 9? Really?
How did that happen?
I don't know. I go back on it.
Have you only had him on once?
Once.
Why don't you have him on a second time?
Well, I'm going to have to, because I'm like, one of the things I do with the top 10 is I'm like, well, might as well have them all back on. They're top 10 episodes. You'd be silly not to bring them back on. But I'm like, Scott McGregor's number 9. As a friend, advisor, and birds of feather flock together, he's probably got some friends that have some pretty interesting things to say. That's a trail to chase down. I mean, and if your audience puts it to number 9, they're interested in it. They're telling you. Number 8, Sam Cooper and Mark Cahotis.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've wanted Sam on the Cornerstone stage for a couple of years now, I guess. And they're talking about China's involvement in Canada. And so you can tell China is a big issue in Canada. Mm-hmm. And that's why it comes up. And that's why Jamie Sinclair gives me a rough time when, mainly We don't talk about it enough, probably with Tom Luongo and Alex Craner, but they have their view on it, and others have a different view on it. And that's why this year at the Cornerstone Forum, I'll keep reiterating this. That's what's going to happen. We're going to have worlds collide, and we're going to see what comes out of the discussion. But
so is Jamie Sinclair going to be clapping the loudest in the audience when Sam Cooper takes the stage? Hey, Jamie.
Number 7 is E.M. Burlingame.
Yeah.
He talked about, the first time he was on, he talked about the English civilization. It was a very interesting thought. I still remember it being an interesting thought. And a ton of people reached out after he came on.
This was the Irish accent. Who's the author? The older fellow?
Not the author.
No.
E.M. Burlingame's the Green Beret living in England.
I remember the name. I don't remember what it's about.
He has a very
the author that you had.
He has a very interesting way how he talks, where he thinks, and it almost is like, "Did you glitch? Or what are you doing there?" Like you listen, and he's like, "I'm organizing my thoughts." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he, episode 918 was number 7.
19. Hey, you mentioned pinning these or somewhere? Because as I'm going on, these ones I'm going to go back.
So on December 31st on X, I'll count down the top 25 and I'll pin them at the top.
There'll be a link, so you just tap on it.
Well, you just go to my X account, and at the top, it'll be a thread. So you can walk through the thread of all the top 25 episodes, and I'll just give you the top 25.
Cool. Okay.
Number 6, Dave Collum, 936. Episode 936. And, people may be like Dave Collum shouldn't shock anyone. He's the professor from Cornell who was on Tucker Carlson.
Right.
He's an interesting guy because he has the ability to talk about anything. You want to talk about anything? His big thing is child trafficking. He's gone deep into that. But this specific episode, we talk about Charlie Kirk and the oddities that go on with the Charlie Kirk assassination. And obviously people liked it because, that was basically 30 episodes ago.
That might be another one to follow up on with all the Candace Owens and the...
Yeah, well, and everything going on.
Erica.
Yeah. It's been interesting to watch, like...
Who knows what the truth is, hey? But it's...
Number 6.
Okay, keep going.
Number 5, Dr. William Mackis.
Another interesting character.
And I tried getting Dr. William Mackis back on for people who've been texting me about this. And he told me not until after he did a big show or a big American podcast, which I don't think has ever happened. So I should probably reach out to him again, try and bring him back on. Lots of people. If I get texted or emailed about one guest in particular, once a week, if not 10 times a week, Dr. William Mackis, people looking for ivermectin treatments on cancer.
Fenbendazole, that is an interesting character. And it would be nice to know more about that. Remember, he was, and he backed that up, I think, didn't he, Shaun, on there being a doctor that was charged with pedophilia?
Yeah, all the stuff in AHS.
Alberta,
yeah.
And he was, and it was like, okay, either you were completely full of it or this thing is corrupt. I remember thinking that, and he would back it up with a name and a case. And I'm not saying I know that much about it, other than it's pretty controversial. It brings up some pretty raw things, and he seems to back it up. That if you could get him on, man.
Yeah, well, I was.
Am I remembering it correctly?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a doctor at BC that was charged with
absolutely
something and ends up at Alberta Health Services?
And at the time of this episode, he was facing jail time, right, from the Alberta government. And people wanted to know what the heck was going on because he has, man, how many people is it on Substack now? Is it 200,000? Yeah, it is a ton of people.
Decentralized funding, which we'll come back to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 4, Dr. Jack Cruz.
Oh, yes.
And that's where he yelled at me and with no shirt on and talking about how Canada's screwed up and you got to figure it out and you guys got to get out of there. And my goal is to go interview Dr. Jack Cruz in El Salvador.
Didn't we talk about it? Either it's when it was our last year in review. I said, I'm going to will it into existence. Somehow I'm coming with you. I want to see El Salvador. I want to see Jack Cruz. I want to see love those areas of the world. But you should go.
That's number 4.
And have him on again. That guy, he's either one of the smartest guys that I've ever heard listen to, or he's completely insane. There's no middle ground with that guy.
I don't think he's completely insane.
I think it's brilliant. Is where I'm leaning.
Number 3, Martin Armstrong.
Sure.
Episode
loyal.
756.
Following that fella.
Every episode I have on him, probably, when we talk about the high watermark from 2 years ago, 38,000, I want to say. Every episode of Martin Armstrong's is probably 30 to 40,000 people.
Yeah.
Easy.
Well, a common friend of ours, a wonderful lady, Angela Schmidt. I think if you had Martin and only Martin, she would come to your Cornerstone forum just to hear.
Can you imagine having Martin in this studio with Tom and Alex sitting on each side and just...
It's going to happen.
I agree. Yeah. At some point, I was telling you before we sat down in here, this room feels better when there's 4 people sitting in a chair. It's naturally designed for it. It just feels like with the military guys, I could have sat in here for 7 hours. I was having a blast just letting them go.
It's just nice to be in the middle of the bush where you know that there's not somebody listening on the other side of the wall. Or, it's and you're out in nature, so it's really cool. So what number are we on right now?
We are on to number 2. Tom Luongo, Alex Craner. It should shock nobody. Yeah. They've been in the top 3. They were number 1 2 years ago. Last year, I think they finished number 2 or number 3, and this year they finished number 2. I mean, they've had people just enjoy hearing them discuss geopolitics. Full stop. They just want to hear the back and forth and allow them to kind of discuss what's going on and hypothesize and just kind of flow. And we do it roughly once a month. I roughly have them on 10 to 12 times a year. And I don't try and overdo it. I don't try to bring them on too much. I just try to bring them on and then let them discuss basically the month has been. And they've been bouncing ideas and trying to figure it out. They finished number 2.
Now, and those 2 guys can agree and disagree and be very respectful with each other, both of them. Like I like how they...
Israel-Palestine for them was a very interesting episode where they disagreed. And it was interesting. To me, I got a lot out of the discussion. Full stop. I liked the disagreement.
Yes. Well, freedom of speech and disagreement, and let the best ideas flush to the top by allowing people to debate them in an open forum.
Yeah.
Right? Well, sure. Okay, so that's
that was number 2. The number 1 episode, the new high water mark, and this is in the first 24 hours, was 500,000, and that was the federal live election stream. When you talk about the numbers and how they can change things, it was 10,000 people an hour were tuning in live. So 2's always, I know he's listening to this, and he's going to be like, you say it right. We had 88,000 people watching us simultaneously. Not 88,000 people in the first 12 hours, simultaneously. And we were watching the number grow by 10,000 every hour. It was beyond insane to watch and be like, what? We talked about it on the Mashup Festivus episode where I was like, maybe 20,000. 2's like, won't be a success if it's 50,000. It's easy to say that Monday morning quarterback, because I was like, if we have 50,000 people tuning into us, I'm like, we've done something well. 88,000. And the only reason it slowed down is because then you had to compete with Rebel and Juno and CBC and all the other streamers who were all coming online to talk about the federal election. Up until that point, 10,000 every hour. It was insane to watch the number jump. And it was...
people are hungry for it.
Oh,
obviously. Simple statement. Now, I'm sure Tuz has joked about this and probably even dug up the numbers because he's does such a good job of researching and being funny. But have you looked at your viewership numbers in compared to CBC? Like, are those numbers publicly available?
When you're talking about that election live stream, we were keeping track of it all night. They had about, I think, towards the end, they had close to 200,000 people watching live.
Yeah.
And we were number 2. No, maybe we were number 3. Were we number 3, Tuz? No, I'm going to have them yelling at
What
the
was
radio.
Your total budget for the show? Think about that. Think about what your dollar per viewer was. Think what CBC's dollar
I mean, the budget was, I don't know, let's call it $1,500 or something.
Think about that.
Yeah, and you got $1 billion organization being subsidized by the government, and we were
with a brand that's been around a long time.
Oh,
with professional people on cameras, on sound, on
100% agree.
And you did with $1,500, and you're in the same arena playing.
Yes.
It tells you how fast this thing's changed. As much as they want to grip and hold the power, it's slipping.
Yeah,
quickly.
Well, and it also tells me that, and I've talked a little bit about it with Tuz, is like The live on big events, people are hungry for information, but it's more than just information. They're hungry for some dialogue, some conversation. We brought on people all across Canada from every province. There's 40 to 50 people that are all intelligent and don't say, were there stupid things said on there? I'm sure there were, but overall it was fun. You got to know what the election result was. Yeah, Carney gets elected. Everybody was kind of bummed. So we talked about that. And in the conservative world, or the world where you have no home and you're not a conservative and you don't like the Liberals and you're skeptical of the PPC and you're definitely not NDP because NDP is not a real party, you had this place to see what was going on in Canada and hear some intelligent people talk about it and have a laugh or two, because that's what Twos does exceptionally well. When it's getting too serious, Twos finds a way to quip in and everybody starts laughing again because, this is a live broadcast. This is serious. You have 88 these. You can't say that. Twos will say it and we'll watch everybody squirm if they won't laugh. And most people just start laughing because, how we found a way to make an election. There can be no fun in it. It's all, and it's like, and we found a way. We've just found this rhythm, the two of us, to really have a lot of fun when the world is pretty dark and depressing. And that is very much needed. And I don't know, the federal election live stream has set the bar to a whole new world that I was shocked. I was like, 500,000 people? Holy crap. 88,000 in the first, watching us simultaneously? Are you freaking kidding me? Twos says now, he's like, we should have never stopped. We should have went till 4 a.m. and see if we could have got 100,000. I'm like, in fairness to Twos, he's not wrong, because what ended up starting to happen towards the end is it slowed down, right? We went from 10,000 an hour, then it started to be only maybe 1,000 an hour. But what started to happen at the end is it started to pick up a little bit again because, I don't know if it's Rebel or Juno or whoever, it's midnight out east. They're like, we're going to bed. It's over. The election's done. We're turning it off. It's a job. Me and Twos are having so much fun. It's like, could we go? We could probably go another hour. So we, at some point you're like, could we have got to 100,000 if we would have went another hour or two? It's possible, because eventually CBC turns it off and there's people still going, I wonder if somebody's still talking about this. It's like after an Oiler game. You don't want them to shut down after hours until you're in bed, because you've still got things to do. And so, maybe a 12-hour live stream, maybe it's going to go longer next time. I can see Twos convincing me of that.
But you could see you can't go too late, because have you ever had a guest fall asleep? Jamie?
Oh, man, we watched that on the Festivus. Yeah. Oh, man, it's still funny to this
Poor
day.
Jamie.
Yeah.
That was killer awesome, Jamie. And Twos poking fun of him. He didn't let you off easy, did he, Jamie? But Shaun, I wonder, tell me if I'm on the button or off. One is you had fun. In a world that's full of darkness, you were having fun. In something as dirty and gross as politics. 1. 2, people have come to have relationships and they trust different. It's not all, everybody's not all listening to Shaun Newman, but the media became contaminated. And for me, I'll speak for me personally. I don't care if you're Fox News, CNN, I don't trust any of you. So if there's somebody that spoke some truth in the last 5 years, if you're having a conversation on something like politics or a court decision, or because you've kind of been telling me the truth the last few years, or appearing to anyways, I'm going to give you my mind. I'm going to give you my ears. I don't care about what's on CBC or CNN or Fox. The next thing, though, when you and I were talking about earlier, I didn't realize how important it was, is decentralized funding. Because as I know you, I trust Shaun, trust you with my life. You're an honest guy. I've never seen you take $1. I've never seen you be underhanded. You're a human, so of course you sin, but I've just never seen it. And as good of a guy as you are, if all of your funding that you used to feed your family came from one check, let's pick somebody as nice as Jonas Hagel. If he was writing the whole check for your podcast, could you really come out and speak against canola or against farming or against, right? You'd be like, I can't really touch those ones because my funder. So by having decentralized funding allows you to speak freely.
Be independent.
So it's better to get a little bit from a lot of people than a lot from one or two.
Correct.
The the poison of centralization. And so I didn't realize this, and you and I talked. I became a supporter of you in that regard.
Yeah.
But can you tell us? So you have Substack.
Yeah.
And
so
how does a person?
the reason I chose Substack, I started on Patreon, and then Patreon removed a few people that I watched, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't like that, because eventually I'll say something and I'll just have all my funding pulled. And the reason I'm not a big YouTube fan, although I release on there, and it is a wonderful platform. Everybody knows they've removed not only myself, but so many others. So there's certain platforms that I've watched, Substack being one of them, where dissenting views can go. And will it always be this way? Who knows? But on Substack, I've found a place where I can post things. And now, because of Matt Smith, and I keep bringing him up because he pushed me to release the podcast on there every episode, there's a way to become a paid member on there. It's $8 American dollars a month, or you can pay $80 for a year.
So it's a fixed number?
Yeah.
So if you want to be a Substack,
you can become a free member.
Yeah.
You can just go on and be a free member and watch the show. But to be a supporter, it's $8 to become a paid member
per
month.
Yeah.
Or $80 if you sign up annually.
Newspaper subscription or something, kind of thing. Hey?
Yeah. And like, I mean, if I was thinking about it realistically, like how many paid, if you had, I don't know, pick a number, Kenny, like if you had, I don't know. I can't do mental math right now, but I don't know how many people it would be. But if you had all your money coming in from 500 people, 800 people, 1,000 people, all of a sudden, if everything, all the advertising dried up, or a story came where it was conflicting, as you say, canola with Jonas, you wouldn't have why I need to go talk about it. There's no pinch point. And, but at the same token, it's like, I've heard from a lot of people, they're just like, I want to support this, I want to support that. And I'm like, yeah, I fully understand. I want to give value for them supporting me. And so like,
which you are.
Sure.
But I know,
I don't like
I'm selling for you, and I know you don't want to sell yourself, but I've always known the free speech is important, and hearing thoughts from others, even if they aren't the thoughts that you agree with, it's very important to hear them. And I think you and independent journalists, we should be supporting to keep you. What was your guest that said the communist states that came out
Karen
first
Katowski
were the ones that had
the most freedom
of speech. So that makes you more and more important every single day. We have to find a way to keep you going, and not just you, others, and even some that would disagree with you. We need them all, right? With an opposing view, decentralized freedom of speech. So if you can support Shaun, well, I
appreciate that, Kenny. Yeah. I get uncomfortable about it. I'm just like, I think more and more people are struggling more and more every day because of what's going on in society. So to sit there and go, I need your money. I'm like, I don't want to do that at all. This is why I've gone the advertising route, so that businesses can benefit from teaming with me. And I think Silver Gold Bull and Bow Valley Credit Union, Rec Tech and Guardian. And, I got people like Caleb Taves who gives a spot up for a community spotlight. It's just like super cool. Shane Stafford, Windsor Plywood, Profit River, there's just this wonderful group of people, Planetcom, doing all the internet security and building me a website. Like, there's a ton of wonderful businesses, and I look at those people, and there's a bunch of businesses who've done a lot of great things, and they don't want the recognition for it. So like, I struggle with trying to get every individual this is the only way, and you got to support independent. Like, I don't know. I've found a different way. But if you wanted to be truly independent, it would be, 1 million people giving you $1. And I know that's a lot of dollars, but versus one person giving you the million, right?
Just look at the risk. And then the contamination that comes from one person setting for my family. I mean, what do I really hope for my family and myself in Canada? To be sovereign and free. That's it. So what do I need to be sovereign free? Well, I need some of those. I need some food in the fridge. I need the ability to speak. And we need you. We need you to keep the thinking going, to keep the debate going. So if I should put my money into some silver, I should also be putting some money into you. Not just you, independent media.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate you bringing it up. I just
thank you for doing this. I mean that.
I sit on this side and I'm still uncomfortable with it. Sorry, folks. I'm like, in today's world where the government taxes everything, the inflation is going insane. People are trying to make ends meet, and to go, you need to worry about Shaun. It's like, I don't know, I feel uncomfortable.
Well, if all the Shauns in the world went back to a 9 to 5 because it was easier and you don't take any flack and you don't have to talk about anything controversial.
Yeah, fair enough.
This ends in a hurry. I think we should go for a moment, Shaun. You gave the opportunity to people that were your most loyal
sure.
Listeners, subscribers, helpers.
Friends. No. This fits right into Substack. So, paid members. What I did was so one of the things about becoming a paid member is not every post has it, but certain posts are only for paid members.
Right.
This is a Shaun Ryan thing, right? You can get into different discussions. So what I gave the paid members was the opportunity to ask a question on the year in review, and that me and you would discuss it.
Okay.
So this is, you want to get a question in on next year's year in review, become a paid member.
There you go.
That to me is an easy sales pitch. You want to enter the discussion, then, support. And I interact with all these people lots because I actually get to know them quite well. So if you want that is an added benefit you get. So here's some of the questions. Okay. Here's the first one. Lee, shout out to Lee. He says, Lee Hepner.
Okay.
Manitoba. Lee is a wonderful man, and he's got to be in the top 5% of people who text me weekly, if not daily. He's up there. Anyways, shout out to Lee. He says, I'm an optimist, and I guess when it comes to Canada, I think the country has been slipping away from us from a long time already. Maybe it's sped up a little since 2015, but I honestly feel social media and podcasts are just informing us at real speed these days. The negative side of that is anxiety in the population, and the mainstream media just elevates that energy. My question is, how do you decide what direction or topic you will steer the show into?
Okay, so let's make sure we understand the question. He's saying that Canada's heading downhill, and there's in social media and podcasters, there's a lot of discussion around that, which is very negative. That's the second part to it, right? Am I correct?
Yep. Negative side of that is anxiety in the population.
And that leads into the head game of doom and gloom. The sky's falling. I don't know what else to do. And then the last part of the question is, how do you use that to steer your podcast? Or how do you...
No, his question is, how do you decide what direction or topic you will steer the show into?
Considering the background that he gave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's your answer?
I listen to my audience. And what I mean by that is a ton of the guests, I can't be everywhere at once. And Lee and a whole bunch of others, including yourself, if I can listen to a podcast a day, let's say, there's people out there listen to 7 podcasts a day. I'd be an idiot not to take the best one they've listened to and say, you need to stare at this. And do I get to all of them? No. But when I start to see things get sent to me over and over and over again, I'm like, I got to pay attention to that. So the text line has been an interesting endeavor. And so I monitor it very closely. I think I can be honest in saying that if you text me, I do my very best to get back to you the same day. I'm not perfect. There are times where it slips. There's times where way too many texts come in and I slowly weed through them. But when I start to see something is hitting over and over and over again, I'm like, I should have that person on. I have kind of like levels. There's whale hunting. Like, I want Joe Rogan on, right? But if you never send or try and track that down, will it ever happen? Oh, maybe. But if you never try and throw a spear at it, there's no chance. It's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? You got to shoot the puck. So I have a list of people I want to have on, and I take shots at them and see if I can get messages through. Maybe there's maybe there's a different way. You know, Neil Oliver's one in particular that just happened, and that just all of a sudden, Tom Luongo brought him up. I'm like, oh, when did that happen?
When did he bring him up? After you interviewed him?
Yeah, one day
did he know that you had interviewed him?
No. It was before I interviewed him.
So had you booked Neil Oliver?
No, he brought him up, and I'm like, you know Neil Oliver? And he's like, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And but I didn't push him on it because Tom was going to have him on his podcast. I'm like, oh no, I'll let Tom, and then maybe I'll reach out. But then I noticed Neil had Alex Trainer on. I'm like, I'm going to reach out to Alex and see if he knows Neil. Because I'm like, to me, that's way too close.
Is it 2 degrees of freedom? No,
2 degrees of separation. And it's 5 degrees, right? Isn't every, you know? Yeah. And so I reached out to Alex. Alex is like, yeah, absolutely, you should have him on. And, you know, like, it didn't happen that fast, but at the same time, in the context of it, it happened relatively fast. When I wanted to have John Rich on, I reached out to Paul Brandt. I'm like, who's in the country music industry that I know that knows I'm not a douchebag and might give me a chance? Paul Brandt, full stop. Reach out to Paul Brandt, have his email the same day, and then it begins this game of like, can I get you on? And when I'm going for large, I take shots at people because like those take time and effort, and maybe at times a little bit of God's grace or a little bit of luck. But the mainstay of the show, like what is happening in Canada, I read the mashup. Those things keep me informed on what's going on. And then you start to see things happening. You're like, I should try and see if I can get somebody from there on. And I should try and that comes a ton from the audience. So how do I guess, Lee, a long answer to your question is I listen to you guys. I listen to you, Lee. I listen to all the people that text me and I just start to see patterns. And I recognize a pattern and I go, that's somebody I need to have on. Dallas Brody, although she'd come on once before, I'm not sitting there going, I need to have Dallas Brody on. But then Dallas Brody, all the things started happening with 1BC. And it actually wasn't why I reached out with her. Making a Killing came out. And that went to the moon and back.
And you had it booked.
And I reached out to Dallas Brody's team and I had it booked. And by the time she's coming on, 1BC is absolutely in turmoil. What the heck is going on? I was telling you, I'm like, I have to talk. I can't even talk about Making a Killing anymore. Yeah. This is what the conversation is.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
And so that's just, I guess, pattern recognition. But Lee, to answer your question, is I listen to you. And I listen to the people that are really engaged in the show.
Can I make my own observation
of
you? I think in relation to Lee's question, if I understand it correctly, is that, Shaun, you have a gift at, no matter how dark it is or how much things are in decline, you seem to have, you won't give up hope.
No, I'm an eternal optimist.
Yeah, and I used to be an eternal optimist, and I still am, but I'm more with Lee of saying like, if I look at all the temperature gauges around me.
But we've already won, Kenny. And we all know why we've already won.
So I'm going to say two things. One is I'm glad because you have to have hope. And even if the day is dark in a week, enjoy today because it's not dark yet. And you're good at that.
Darkest time in my life brought the best people into my life.
Exactly.
It changed my life.
And Lee, one thing that Shaun and we talk a lot is the whole saying that hard times make strong men.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't get strong unless you have hard times. So therefore be thankful for the hard times because it brings goodness. And the third thing, Lee, and I don't know if this is meant for you, but when I was really struggling with, I think what I hear in your question is when you start to pay attention to what's going on around it, it can get a little heavy on the noggin. And Shaun, you and Andre, it all came together around the same time. You suggested Alan Watts, a fairly modern philosopher. And when I combine that with Carl Jung, combine that with Christianity, combine that with you and Andre, this isn't our world. And we're not here to control it. Let go. Be at peace with it. It's not your job. You can plant the seeds, but it's not you that does the watering. And so for me, when I was listening to Alan Watts, who you've met personally.
No, I haven't met him personally. No. I interviewed
No, who gave him a ride?
Rod Sellers.
Rod Sellers.
That was one of my archive
from
interviews.
Lloydminster, right? Yes. You and I and Andre were talking about it.
Because Alan Watts has since passed, right? He's no longer.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like, it's doom and gloom, but this is not our world, and it's this. We're put here for a reason at this point in time, and if it's your job to be here during a time where it's a little bit of a dark period, then do it. Do it to the best of your ability and put a smile on your face when you do it. So that's my observation. You want to go to the next question?
Yeah. So the next question is Kevin Damon, who you know quite well.
Another amazing man.
Kevin, once again, is in my top 5%. Probably, Kevin, if I'm being honest with you, probably 2% of people who text. He said, I would like to hear more about the getting guests process. Is there a process of just cold shot emails? Is there a network of names podcast hosts share around? That kind of thing I find interesting. I would have piles of anxiety trying to organize a guest. There's also a second part that I'll get to that's directed at you. There's a ton of hustle in getting guests. You know, I can't remember if I've shared it or not, but to get Danielle Smith the last time took me 60 emails, I think was the final total. There's a ton of frustration that comes in that, but I think even John Rich probably took me 20 some emails. There's times where they just don't email back, and that's really deflating. It is beyond deflating because you just want, as soon as I get a no, at least I know they're reading my email. Jordan Peterson's team is case in point. I have talked to Michaela Peterson via email. Do you think I can get Jordan Peterson? No. It's the most frustrating thing, but at least I'm talking to him. Brett Weinstein, same thing. I've talked to Brett Weinstein's son via email because I've interviewed Heather. Mm-hmm. He's just not interested. Simple as that. And you go, that sucks. But at least I get an answer. Getting guests is a ton of hustle. It's a ton of emailing, digging into it. The contact information is everywhere, but getting a conversation and a dialogue started has always been that way all the way back. Keith Morrison, you remember I had Keith Morrison on Dateline years ago?
Yeah, the Canadian.
That took, I can't remember, it took a lot. But it's funny. They just kept telling me no, but it's such a polite way. And I just keep saying, well, I'll reach out in a month. And they go, great. And so I kept reaching out. It took me like 8 months. And finally, I assume they just realized I wasn't going away, and they said, he'll give you half an hour on this date. I was like, great. And then the lady who had been his scheduling person for NBC was like, that was really good. And I'm like, would he come back on? And she said, yeah, but you got to give us maybe a year or something, you know? And by the time the year had come around, I was into a different realm, and I haven't really gone back down that road. But, you know, how do you get people? The Sam Cooper to come to the Cornerstone Forum, that took way too many emails. To get the hopeful guest here that I get to announce in time, if it becomes a yes, takes a lot of hoop jumping. It takes a lot of just, you know, that is the hustle of it.
Sure. I just can't see Kevin having anxiety.
Yeah, no
People don't know. Kevin's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He comes in through Shaun's podcast.
Here's a question for you, Kenny. Carmen wants to know, is Ken Rutherford some sort of mobster or kingpin of crime?
Mobster king. No to neither. Carmen is Kevin's better half, and she's come out a couple times. Kevin comes to our community now. He's part of our community. He's a brother, and he comes out and helps us with jiu-jitsu in our fight club. And Carmen comes out, and she's a beautiful human. She hit it off with Benny. My little son Benny's a handful, and he's a little too much for most people. Too much energy, too much pizzazz, too much attitude, too much something. And him and Carmen were like besties. They just hung. Like, Benny loves Kevin, but he's like, but when's Carmen coming back? So now I'm not sure where that comes from, because Kenny is certainly not a mob boss. I don't know where that comes from, but the answer is no and no.
George Showstack says, my question would be, do you and your guests, you know what? One other question that Kevin had before I move on. Is there a network of names podcast hosts share around? I think there's a network in my world, because I've seen where like 4 podcasts go in the same building, and then I assume what they do is they pay for, just take Jordan Peterson, for example. They pay for him to come in, and then he does the circuit in their building, and then he leaves. I've seen that. There's the walled garden theory of Jordan Peterson, where he has select groups and they share guests. And so in my world, there's like a loose connection. If I see that, I just said it with Alex Craner. I see him go on Neil Oliver. I reach out to people that I've become more than just an acquaintance with, and I leverage that friendship to get on somebody I normally can't get. You got to be careful with that, because if I reach out to John Rich, who I just had on, to have on everyone, then I'm over leveraging that connection. And the reason I felt comfortable with Paul Brandt, if I'm being honest, is because I interviewed Paul Brandt once, and the second time, if people remember, I went and interviewed him in person. And there is something different that changes when you sit across from somebody, and you get to look them in the eye and go, this guy is... I get Paul Bissonnette from Spittin' Chicklets. The reason I got him is because I talked to him in person.
Wasn't he half tight in the crowd when you...
Oh, yeah. He was high as a kite.
Yeah, sure.
High as a kite.
Yeah.
And he told me no. And then I was just like, oh, okay, fair enough. Whatever. Not a big deal. And then I don't know if it was my reaction to him saying no, because he looked at me. He's like, screw it. Let's do it. And I still have his number. And every once in a while, I'll try and get him back on. It never seems to work.
Cool.
But
I bet you it's coming. Like in that, what Kevin's referring to, I've seen it when I was younger at college. I was on the Students Association or Students Union. And when you'd book talent, you'd go to buy a comedian or a hypnotist, there's a list. You can see how much they cost and who's there. And then I've also seen it with these people that speak at colleges and schools, when they get somebody in to talk about suicide prevention or drug prevention. There's a list, like it's a business of its own, an industry. Most people don't realize that properly, but there's people that's what they do. And you go into your catalog and you say, how much can we afford? And what does this person speak on? And you contact their agent. And so I imagine it's probably coming for podcast, Shaun. It's probably just podcasting is in a state of chaos because it's brand new, but probably order is coming and there probably is going to be a list. So good question, Kevin.
George Shostak, my question would be, do you and your guests or your feeling/knowledge think that we Albertans can truly separate?
That's a deep question. Sorry, the question is, do you and your guests? But I guess your guests aren't here other than me. So let's just point it at you.
Do you and your guests or your feelings/knowledge think that we Albertans can truly separate? I think we can have a referendum. I think that is coming. After that, it's past the event horizon. Like Ben Trudeau comes to mind, where he's like, don't do what Quebec did. He's like, you're going to get tied up in legal battles with Canada for the next 30 years. I think again, Burlingame and blood needs to be sacrificed for freedom. That's a more dark or real, are we there? I don't know. Can we truly separate? I think history has shown, yes. Are we going to in the next 10 years? I don't know. I don't know. I think we're going to get a referendum question. I think we're going to have a chance to vote on it. I think there's going to be an opportunity for Alberta to say we want out. Is that going to happen? I'm no longer naive. I thought Danielle Smith, when she was running for the UCP leadership, I thought she was going to win in a landslide. And if people remember that, it was like that tight. It was beyond tight with Travis Taves. That really surprised me. I was like, didn't see that coming. So I'm not a fool to think in my echo chamber we say, yes, it can. But I mean, Lukasdik just got 700,000 people assigned stay in Canada. So you already know there is a contingent of Albertans that do not want to leave. Now, is it 70-30 or is it 50-50? Where does it sit? I don't know. I think we're going to have an opportunity. And is there anything else that you, at this point, would want? Would you like an opportunity? I think everybody would say, they listen to this, yes, we want an opportunity. I think that is coming. And Alberta's going to get its chance to say we want out. And if we get out, then I listen to, I go back to what Chris Scott said. Trump's administration, has said they'd back an Alberta, independent Alberta. And then our conversation always goes to people like Gaddafi and like, are they going to let you leave? That's the darker question.
Yeah, we're sitting on a lot of money that's sitting in the ground.
Yeah.
And are they just going to say, you go, Alberta, just go and take care of your business?
Well, and then you listen to different people look at the historical context of the United States, and did they ever truly leave the British Empire? And if you start looking into the deeper history of that, like, I don't know. You hit it right on the head. It's a deep question. What I believe can happen is a referendum. After that, I got no clue. I'm just as...
Look at Trump's most recent comments on Venezuela, where he's saying we're coming back to get our oil. I think, is that what he said this last week? Right? And so whose oil is this? Is it the people's, or is it...
Right.
The puppeteers a little higher up on the... But what if we say... There is a cool book, Shaun, and it's something we should read. It was on... It was suggested to me by some of the Maverick guys and the people that started the Reform Party, right? The Alan Crapans of the world. And, who is this? I forget his name right now, the chief of staff for Stephen Harper, who was also involved in the Maverick Party.
I'm forgetting his name too.
Key figure in Reform Party. Figure.
Somebody's yelling at the radio.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because they were all part of the Maverick Party as well. But some of those people referred me to a book, and it was written by some Canadians, one of them being Ted Byfield, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Where it was written down, where it's actually examples of countries that had gone their own way. And how did they do it? And when did they do it? And what were some struggles they had? I think that's really healthy for us all to read, so we do actually have some hope to say.
What's the book called?
I've got it at home. I'm sure if we Google it, somebody that's a quirky person out there will text us back in. But I'll be able to find it afterwards.
That's funny.
I think
because you just primed everybody and everyone. Yeah. That sounds really interesting.
It's a book we should all read.
What's the book called? Don't know what the book's called.
But
I tell you what, twos. Ken is going to.
I'll find it.
You're going to find it. You're going to text me the title. And if you're interested in that title, text me and I'll text you the book title.
Is it fair to say, though, this will not happen with people sitting on their couches waiting for someone else to do it?
No.
Is it possible? It's possible. But it's going to take some work and some bravery.
Yes.
To get, yeah. So anyway, so let's keep going. Next question.
Byron Christopher. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Byron. I hope to have you in the studio at some point in the near future. I have a ton of respect for Byron Christopher. His question, do people now have less or more confidence in mainstream media? I think I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. The answer is...
I think we answered that when we talked about the CBC numbers versus...
Yeah, I think confidence is dying.
Yeah.
It's dying. Full stop. And I hope there is a resurgence in actual journalism, like you did, Byron, that comes back, that asks the difficult questions that are uncomfortable, and we can all be better for it. That's my hope, and I believe it is going to happen.
Even the people that aren't awake, I don't think they're watching normal TV that much anymore, are they? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know the last time I've ever watched CBC, Fox, CNN. I don't remember the last time. So for me, it's dead. I give it zero attention. But let's go to the next question.
Here's Tim. Tim said, based on the vast amount of knowledge you've accumulated over the past year, do you think that there's any hope of this country turning around and getting back on track? I ask this in earnest because I'm seriously considering leaving, because with the continual slide towards tyranny, I don't see a way out. The political right is divided and can't seem to find a cohesion required to make a proper effort to right the ship. The media calls us conspiracy theorists that are bent on propagating divisiveness, and the government writes regulations to stifle voices that call for explanation or even simple discussion. How can I be convinced that there are still reasons to stay and pay exorbitant taxes to the government who seemingly is repulsed by my very existence as a middle-aged, moderately successful, straight white male? Sign, everywhere a sign, blocking out the scenery, breaking my mind, do this, don't do that, can't you read the sign? That's Tim.
Well done, Tim. That's a good question.
So the question, if I go back to, do you think there's any hope of this country turning around and getting back on track? If we're talking Canada, full stop, no.
Interesting. The guy who always has hope is
I have hope. I have full hope.
No, but you're saying Canada turning around?
Canada turning around? No. We are no. Yeah, Canada,
it's cooked.
If conservatives get in, do we slow down the decline? Sure. But I mean, it is Christmas. We just had, what was it called? It wasn't Christmas party. Christmas concert, forgive me. It was called a winter celebration, winter something. And it was kids on stage at a school saying, give the land back. Right? Like, we are beyond, that wasn't in Alberta, folks. That was out east. We are in a realm of where I don't recognize what is going on the other side of the country. And I got people who listen to this show and they say they're just like us. And I fully embrace all of you. Is Canada finding its way back? Convince me how it's possible with the way our elections and parliament and governance goes. No, it looks like it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. So when you ask, is there any way to stay in Canada the way that it is currently governed? No. But that's why I am out west. That's why I live in the community I do. It's why I've surrounded myself with the people I do. I look at some of the people in Alberta, and they're just brilliant. And they are people who have skin in the game. They are doing things. Some of them, some of them you've never even heard of, and they're doing it very quietly. And I just admire them. And I think there is hope out west. And I think Jamie Sinclair, he came on the podcast. We were just talking about this December 2021, and he was the first guy, I'll give him full credit, who talked about West and East just have different values. And as soon as we realize that, we can just become Western. We don't have to get rid of the Canadian name. We could be Western Canada. But at some point, more of us are just going to realize that what's going on isn't healthy. And we need to address that. So, yeah, that's my thought.
I wonder though, like everywhere goes through dark times and light times, right? Like look at Russia, right? They had some strong times and obviously some very, very dark times and some up times, and now they're back in war again. So I wonder if it's not just a cycle. I know we could get into the end times discussion and these things, but probably a good idea to have a few cards in your hand to play, because we don't know how this goes. And maybe Canada has another 150 good years, and maybe it's two.
I mean, I'm not sitting here going like, as I look out the where we're at, like Canada's on fire. In certain sense that it is, but then also I look out the window and I see all the beauty that this land has. I just go, Canada, I think the question is more around the governance and where we're going. We're literally being flushed down the toilet. I think everybody can see it. There's just so many, when you write it all down on what we're doing as a country, it's hard to recognize it.
I wonder what Tim's age is because one thing I noticed the difference between you and I, Shaun, is that when your kids are young, it's you have to put food on the table. I have adult children now, and I'm like, okay, what's this going to be like for them? They're just coming in to try to afford their first home. Yeah. Try to express their views, try to have a child of their own and be able to think freely. And it's like, okay, they got 35 years of work ahead of them and they're in year 2. How are they going to stay here? I don't know. So I don't, it's a different, when your kids become 16, 17, 18, you're like, it's almost time for you to enter that. Your brain shifts a bit from thinking of.
Well, this goes back to the can we separate? I might lean into what Chris Scott says. It's inevitable. Now, is it inevitable in the next year? I don't know about that. Possibly. Mm-hmm. But I agree with him. At some point, there is just a breaking point. Mm. And Martin Armstrong has talked about it being between here and 2032. And I don't know what it is that breaks the camel's back, because you look around at some of the things going on in our country and I'm like, what is it going to be? Because at this point, it just keeps stacking up.
These questions hurt the mind. They're deep questions.
Yeah. The final one from Substack. Aaron, how do we collectively keep our eye on the prize while recognizing we all have differences and sometimes different values? After watching the recent implosion of One BC, I worry people with ulterior motives may undermine the changes happening in Alberta. Well, I can tell you this, full stop. If you're trying to do something that is probably common sense in the political realm, there will be infiltration and they will try and destroy you. Would you disagree with me?
No, that's for sure.
So how do you keep your eye on the prize? That's a good question. Probably outline where you want to go. I don't know. That's a, when you talk about how do you keep your eye on the prize? Huh. If I bring it back to the podcast, I knew which way I wanted to head. And as long as I was heading, in the direction of maybe the little mountain that I was aiming at, I get pulled off of it and I could feel it. And then I drift back to the line. Nope, that's where I'm heading. And then over time, I've just started to add things into, nope, this is going to make it better and better. And I knew I was heading that way. Consistency and just head that direction. So that is keeping the eye on the prize. And if the prize for you is getting out of Alberta, getting out of Canada, and that's Alberta, or that's actually physically leaving Canada, that's a direction of keeping your eye on the prize. I'm not here to tell you which way one to do, but conversation, being respectful, and understanding. There's probably infiltration in the APP. There has to be,
for sure. There's focus on it.
You just watched 1BC making a killing, talking about residential schools, adding in, is it all of it bang on correct in the documentary? I don't know. It's a documentary. And if you've watched enough documentaries, they always aim towards their goal. And so are they bringing in the full discussion? Probably not. But it was interesting. It added a bunch into the discussion, and 11 days after that, the party is up in smoke. So you just have to have discernment. You got to realize that people are going to try and pull you off your path. And
can I make an observation of you?
Sure.
And you tell me if this is wrong, because the question I think was, how do you keep your eye on the prize? Watching you and how you live your life, I find that you rank your prizes from most to least important. At the top is your faith, your family, and your community. And so your eye on your prize is always saying, like, that might be falling down over there, but I have my faith and I have my family and I have my community. And for today, I'm okay for one more day. Am I on base for you? Like, you don't seem to get overly, was it Kevin's word? Anxiety over things that are happening out there, even though they probably stress you out, but you're like, but they're not the most important things to me. It's my faith, my family, my community. Is that a fair statement?
It's probably a fair statement, Kenny. I just did I guess it's already out now, I guess, by the time this airs. I did, Nicole Murphy interviewed me. And it was geared towards creativity and entrepreneurs and people, that are creating things, and how to, basically, it was a different version of the same question. My mountain isn't $1 million. It isn't 1 million followers. It is, and at times I still think I'm figuring out what that mountaintop is, because at one point God wasn't there. I certainly didn't know that's what I was aiming at. Heck, you go back and listen to the first conversation me and Tanner and Ade have. He's talking about God being the ultimate goal, or Jesus, and me talking about truth and Jordan Peterson's thought, and how they're very similar, but they're not the same thing. My mountaintop, I don't know if the podcast is at the mountaintop, because I've said this over and I'll continue to say this. The day it takes me away from my family is the day it's done.
There you go.
And so, like,
there's
the mountain, right? It's like that's been added in, so everybody knows that. If my family's coming with me, it means I'm in the right place. If they're starting to fall off and I'm starting to have problems there, I got to readjust. That's keeping the eye on the prize, and that's very difficult to do when it's a political movement. Like, very difficult.
Yes.
And then even if you get close to that, there's going to be infiltration. There just is. Full stop.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean don't do it. It just means have discernment and realize that is coming. Don't be don't be naive. I was naive for a very long time. Was I not?
Oh, both of us were.
And I've had my hard lessons, and I'm just trying to learn. And as I go along, it's like, oh.
You can only control what you can control. What's right in front of you. Right? Shaun,
that by the way was the last Substack question. Okay. So thank you everyone who submitted that.
Good question.
Because that was me and Ken had talked about that. I'm like, we should do something with the Substack paid subscribers. and give them a way to enter into this conversation, because they comment all the time and I'm in different conversations. They text all the time. And I just appreciate the questions.
Yeah.
And I appreciate a guy like Byron Christopher being a paid subscriber
Yeah, isn't
who
that cool?
has been a guest, and he's been on my stage and
An independent journalist.
yeah.
Should be supported. Shaun, no, we want to make sure we don't go too long. I know you said
Sure.
we're going to go when we go, but you and I both listened to our episode from last year.
Yes.
And we talked a lot about a vision board, because our book club did it, and I did it years ago. And we said, hey, let's get it together in the second week of January. We both had good years. We both had done some pretty neat things.
But we didn't
do our vision board.
We
said we were going to do it, and we didn't do it.
I can hear Alan chuckling. A vision board. Anyways.
Alan Lorenzer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could we always tease him because he thinks a vision board is, I don't know. I don't know what his term for it
Flaky
is.
or something?
Not flaky. No. More like not masculine, you know? But I chuckle about that because I've just had success with a vision board, right? I wanted to be full-time podcasting in 5 years. It's what I put on it. And I was full-time in 3 years. And I listened to you, because I respect you a lot, talk about when you write down your goals, how important it is, because then it's almost like it goes somewhere in the back of your mind. And if you go back and look at it, it's like, holy crap. I didn't. And it's funny. I didn't even think about this. You finish your thought, because I think.
Well, where we're getting at is I had another one of your listeners, Dave.
Never mind.
A friend named Terry Regenwetter, and I was a business partner with him for a while, and a very driven guy. He had a black belt in Taekwondo and bodybuilding champ of Alberta, and had a very successful business. And he told me to do it. I was like, well, I guess worse things could happen. Who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? Like, what do I want to pursue? And so I wrote them down, and then I went and found pictures that were as close as I could find to what I envisioned in my own mind.
Yep.
And I glued them on a piece of cardboard. And yeah, it felt a little weird, but I did it. And then I kind of looked at it, but it got put away. But I kept it. And then when I had moved to my house and I'd bought my land, and it's a long story. I won't bore you with all things around there. But I picked it up, and you would crap your pants if you saw how close the house looked to my house. I've always loved the water, and I wanted to have a nice boat for my family. The boat I bought was the exact same brand that was in the picture. Like the animals that were pictured in it. I had a dog. I was like, I want to have a farm dog. I want to live on a farm. I had a picture of a German Shepherd. Well, guess what dog I got? A German Shepherd. I'm like, oh, that's eerie. It all came true. So and maybe go, okay, if that's true, why don't I keep doing that? And so, although we've had goals, I haven't done another.
Well, I always wonder about writing about stopping drinking, how much that sat in the back of my brain.
Write it down.
And it took longer, but at the same time, maybe it didn't take long. It took the right amount of time, and all of a sudden it was there.
So how about we make good on our word?
Yes.
When are we doing our vision board by? Because we have to answer for this, because we're going to do this. If we're going to do this again next year.
Yes.
How many things are we going to put on the vision board? You like less, not more.
Well, think about it. The first hour of this, or less, what did we talk about? It wasn't the 10 things I've done. It was the one thing I've done. And so people, including myself, get hung up on changing 10 things. I'm like, man, write the 10 things you want to change, and then try and find the root of the problem. And it's no different than we rag on the healthcare system about always just treating symptoms and never getting to the root cause. But we're just as bad at culprits. Get to the root of your problem and look at it for what it is, and it'll be uncomfortable, because not drinking was uncomfortable for me. But by addressing it, it becomes something that starts affecting all of your life. So the reason I think less is more is because it has been exactly what I've done. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go and do 10 things. Maybe that is exactly who you are, and Godspeed to you. It just, in my world, I like less is more. I don't want to try and do 50 things because I already am doing 50 things. I want to be involved in my kid's life, so I am involved in my kid's life. I want to do a show. I want to do the Cornerstone Forum. I want to do all these things. It takes time. So when I look at the year, I'm like, I've stewed on this for way too long. because I want to make sure it is the one thing that is going to propel me to be a better version of myself, which will impact my family and my kids and hopefully my community and my friends and draw me closer in my faith. All these things. I'm like, man, that is like, so what are you going to do? You know, it's an interesting question. So when you talk about a vision board, yeah, I'm thinking I'm probably putting 3 things on it.
Can you say what they are?
One, I can't because I haven't announced it yet. I teased it a year ago on the same show, and it is the dominoes have begun to fall.
In a good way?
In a very good way. But for the benefit of my marriage, probably is the safe way of saying it. I can't fully explain it to the audience.
Can I throw one thing out there, audience? His wife is fully in the know. They just
yeah. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. And so until it is official, which, you know,
sure,
between here and the Cornerstone Forum, I think in some time frame it'll be announced. I think that is on the vision board, and
okay, so
that's one.
Project
Project
A is on the board.
So Project A is something to do with the podcast. It is large. It is a very large endeavor, and that is
that's going on.
That's going on.
What else?
I was bugging you about this before. Me and you started training one-on-one jiu-jitsu. If I go back to the first episode, we're joking about it. You stayed with it. I didn't. And one of the things I just noticed, at times I'm an angry guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't
I'm not nodding because you are an angry guy, but I know where you're going because I've suffered from the same thing, and jiu-jitsu does help.
And I don't mean like I'll burst on my family or my friends. It just at times I have a lot of pent-up anger. And it used to be I used to play hockey and I used to get hit guys and, you know, throw a hip check. I loved a hip check. And, you know, just like that interaction of bumping into people and them trying to kill you and you chasing after you was just a release. And, you know, as you get older, you don't have that anymore. And honestly, I'm not that mad about it. It's just like, I want to try something. And you talk so highly of jiu-jitsu, and I should give you a compliment because you've been paying me all these compliments. When I first started the podcast and Ken was on it for the first time, we just started jiu-jitsu. And you just got your blue belt, which my hat's off to you. Shout out to Kevin for making that happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's been consistency. When you talk about consistency, you've pulled that off. And so I don't know. I don't have on my vision board a blue belt. I just want to start training, and I'm going to push on us two to make that happen because we started and then I threw my back out, which everybody knows about, and then that set me back. And I just go, okay, we're going to make sure that happens. And so in 2026, that's going to be on the board. So in a year's time, I just want to have said that I've been doing that consistently. And I think that is very, well, no, that's going to happen. So that's number 2.
Can I give you a hint on that? First of all, we should thank the big guy upstairs, God. Oh, I thank him regularly for Kevin. One, because a good mentor and somebody that cares, and you're not going to find somebody in jiu-jitsu that cares more about Uri than Kevin, would be 1. 2, I used to kind of mock the belts because I've wrestled and done a lot of jiu-jitsu. I've done some judo, did some, kickboxing and something. And I was always like, the mats tell the truth. It doesn't matter what belt you have on. Right? I looked at it almost like like something to brag about, like a gold watch or something. And
sure,
who cares if you got a gold watch? Doesn't mean you're wealthy. You know, it doesn't. And I didn't really care. So I didn't set the goal. I was like, I'll just let the talking do on the mats. And the guy who's tougher than me beats me up. And the guy that I'm tougher than, I beat him up. And we all are friends and we leave at the end of the day. But then I was like, no, I'm aging. And it actually means something to me. And I don't know why. It's Kevin taught that to me. And I think you should be specific of, I want to have this many stripes on my white belt, or I want a blue belt, or I want a purple belt, or whatever your goal is. Because to be specific, because as soon as I said I wanted as a goal.
Okay. Well, then my question is, in my brain, Ken, on my board, I'm going for this year. Are you saying for the board, it has to be for the next 5 years?
I just think if you do it for the year, because right now we're just talking for a year.
But how?
If you don't let out your...
No, I know. So how quickly can I get a blue belt or a stripe on a belt?
Well, for me, it took a long time because I didn't have a Kevin. Right? It would be
how quickly can I get? What are the stages up to a blue belt? Because blue belt's
white belt with 4 stripes, and it goes blue belt, 4 stripes.
Is the first step a white belt?
Yeah. 1 stripe. You get 1 stripe on your first promotion. You walk in, you join.
All right, fine. 1 stripe. I think that's setting the bar extremely low, but you know exactly what my first part is. So it's like I actually don't know how quickly I can get there, and I don't know if I can actually get there before I enact part 1.
Kevin cares so deeply about both of us. I would have a conversation with him, say, Kevin, here's who I am. Here's what I'm planning on doing. Here's what can I do. What's a realistic? I just talked to Kevin today because I don't want to say something. He's my mentor. I said, Kevin, what's a realistic? Because I'm not 19 and I have a lot of responsibilities. In jiu-jitsu, you have the athletes. I can't do this for 5 hours a day. I wish I could.
Sure.
I said, am I being too aggressive by saying I want a couple stripes by the end of the year on my blue belt? Purple belt. That's my next goal, obviously. He said, nope, I think that's very realistic. As long as you train and do the right things, yada, yada. So I think you should talk to Kevin, but then I think you should say your number of stripes.
Yeah, well, I said 1 stripe until Kevin.
I think you're low, but
until Kevin tells me, yeah.
So we're doing a jiu-jitsu's on your board,
and then the third thing is for the audience.
Okay,
because I don't know if Ken's right on this. Ken just, he's singing, Ken's got this way, you're so interesting. And I go, I don't know about that.
Mm.
But I do understand what you're saying when you're like, I've watched you as a friend find God, stop drinking, really focus on being around my family and things like that. And he's, so how can you help the audience? And so on my board, I don't know. I got to think about what the actual image is. But what I would really like to do is I would like to be what's the word I'm looking for? Who's accountability?
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested in just one thing for the year of 2026, sorry. And you need somebody just to make sure that you're accountable. We got our Thursday men's group, and one of the guys is getting up at 5 a.m. And all he does is just send a thumbs up. I'm up at 5, right? He doesn't care if anybody sees it. It's just
like a jocko.
Something for him that he's like, I'm up, and I get to send this. I would just say, if you're interested, send me a text, because I don't know how it all plays out, but I look at it and I go, if somebody doesn't have anyone to hold them accountable, well, I'll hold you accountable, right? How does that play out? If there's only one person, it's pretty simple. Text me once a month. Tell me what you're doing and what you're going to do for 2026, and I'll just make sure I stay in contact with you. Now, if it goes to a crazy number, that doesn't have to be that much. Trying to keep track of 20 people would be difficult. We'll figure out a way. But I think, like I talk about the community that's listening to this, and they're wonderful people, and lots of them already got their crap together. They're probably just waiting for me to get my crap together.
Every human has their own crap sandwich.
Sure,
everybody's got something.
But if somebody is interested in what we're talking about and just wants to be a part of it in a small way and have some accountability, I'll be the accountability part. And I think that's an easy thing to put on the board. And then you're going to say, but you need a number, and I'm going to be like, well, I don't know, 10 people. How's that?
So what kind of spurred this? Shaun, tell me if I'm on the right track. Is that by God's blessing, our choice, our drive? I don't know what the book club came together, and all the other members of the book club, they can share their own success stories. But what we had was some people that we actually said, "Hey, my goal is this."
Yes,
it came out of your mouth, it entered somebody else's ears. So then there's an accountability to it, and something else that I think was a big variable in it. We can disagree with parts of it, but we all read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life.
We did.
And it was written in a way of like, just make your bed.
Actually, what we first did is we watched the Kathy Newman, Jordan Peterson interview.
Right.
Because that gave you a level of understanding Jordan Peterson and how brilliant but eloquent he can be in his arguments. And that spurred on, like, if you can watch half an hour of him and be like enthralled, go read 12 Rules of Life.
yeah, it kind of helped set the table a bit for be accountable, do something big with your life.
Yep.
You know,
I agree.
And so then we read that book, and then we picked some hard things to wrestle with. I won't share because some of them are quite deep and quite personal. But your listeners, I was telling Shaun earlier that, Shaun, you have a big audience now, and there are people that value you because you are authentic and you're real and you wrestle with things and you share your thoughts and opinions. And out there, guaranteed, there's somebody out there that's drinking too much or has a marriage on the rocks or, you know, the porn addiction. I don't know. Like
Sure.
we've all had our stumbles, because congratulations, it's called humanity. And then I was thinking, Shaun, imagine if you kind of leverage that and challenge people to read 12 Rules for Life and pick one thing that when you have to come back next year, you send a text to Shaun
Sure.
and say, this year I will quit.
You know
doing
what's
X.
you know what's hard of having Ken as a friend, folks, is I go, yeah, and then you're like, nope, you got to dial it in. You got to dial it in.
Mm-hmm.
So
Be specific.
sure. Well, let's be specific.
If you 10 people, you're setting your goals 10, whatever.
10.
But they send you a message that says,
I'm
by
going to
next
read.
year,
I'm going to
I
read
will
Jordan
be-
Peterson's 12 Rules to Life, and we will touch base once a month to make sure you're on track.
And just like you and I had to eat our own, we didn't do our vision board. In a
Yes.
year's time, you got to either say, did you do it or did you not do it?
Well, I
To
tell you
Shaun.
what we'll do next year.
Yeah.
If people text us,
Oh yeah.
is we won't use last names unless they want that. But if you don't make it, you're getting talked about on here. And if you do make it, you're getting talked
Celebrate
about.
the victories.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You can do it. Okay.
Now,
Shaun,
you focused on me and my
Mm-hmm.
three. You were just as bad because you didn't do it. So what is on your
'cause
vision board,
this is
Kenny?
Shaun's year in review, but I thank you for the blessing because it made me accountable and it lets me help speak my vision to reality. And now I have to do my vision board, which means in a year's time, if it worked like the last vision board, these are the things that will happen. So thank you to you, Shaun, for the opportunity. So here's what I'm putting on my board, unless I change. But when we set our date tonight, this is what's going to go on there. One, I want this to be the best year of marriage of all of my years of marriage. That is my goal for this year. Will be one. Like I want to say that was the best year. Actually, I want my wife to say that. One. Two, I'm for sure taking my two middle boys. I'm considering taking my third. We're going to Paraguay. I want to see Paraguay. We've got some things to do there. By the time we do this in 1 year's time, our feet will have been in Paraguay. We'll have spent some time in Paraguay. Possibly the whole family, but it's kind of hard to get everybody there all at once.
Sure.
Everybody doing the thing. So for sure me and my boys, but I'd love to be able to take my wife and my three sons that are at home to Paraguay. A third one, this gets into personal ones. I'm just going to speak it, but I can't air things that are going on. But I want our family to be united. We've got some things going on, and so I'm just going to say that. Next would be, as you know, we've started a fight club in Britannia, and God's blessed us with people like Kevin and Devin Burgess, and it's been going really well. And we do boxing and jiu-jitsu in our local community, and it's time to ramp it up. And we've had some really cool people step up to say that we're willing to support it financially because we need a ring. We can only train boxing athletes with a real ring, and we can only host real fights with a real ring. And so we've had some people step up. Are you okay if I say a few of them?
Oh yeah, Gare.
Like, we decided to ask people about 5 or 6 days ago. I think maybe 9 requests went out. 7 of them all came back as yeses. We're in. Krista McGowan, Rectech Power Products, Caleb Tays, all the same names, right? I sort of forgetting. Oh, Jonas Hagel, the Fountain family. Am I missing others? I'm sorry if I'm missing some. There's too many, but am I okay to say the last one?
Sure.
You. Shaun brought tears to my eyes. I was talking to him. He's like, whoa. You're what? I'm like, well, we're trying to create a place to where we're not just a fight club, but we're actually the Britannia Boxing and BJJ Club, because God's brought some pretty cool things in, being Kevin and Devin and athletes and bats and people that want to do this. And Shaun and I have talked a lot about this, is focus on your faith, your family, and your community. And it kind of came to me that, well, what's a good way to make our community strong? Get physically strong, spend time together, have a cup of coffee together, become friends together, and encourage your youth to go do challenging things. and your old people. We've had people as old as 75 come down to the club. We've had people as young as my son at 4, and it's flourishing. So my vision board is that club is booming for 2026. It's going to be a huge year for us, in large part thanks to our coaches and you, Shaun, and all of our donors. So thank you for that, Shaun. I can't believe you did that, but I got to stop talking about it. I'm going to get another tear in my eye. So that's on my vision board. Another one is I've been putting this off for a while because COVID made me lose a lot of faith in a lot of things, but it's time I have to find a home church. So that'll be done. Our family will have a home church by next year. I will have 2 stripes on my blue belt. And my last one would be, I want to continue to stay in shape, because in jiu-jitsu, to make the journey, you will have injuries. And I've had injuries, and I will continue to eat healthy, strength train, maintain good health so that I can stay on this journey for my family, for my community, for my God, for my wife, not just for jiu-jitsu, but for all the above. Those are the things going on my vision board. If anything changes, I will update, but that's what's going on the vision board. And we've spoken to reality, and we better not eat it.
Well, we can't eat it 2 years in a row. Yeah. I chuckle because I started this off. You might be the other person that wants to do 15 things. Mm-hmm. I'm less is more. Kenny is the opposite of me when you rattle that off. But it's funny because underneath the 3 things, a lot of what you said, I'm like, oh yeah, I already had that in my vision of that one specific thing. But I chuckle about it because, if you're like, one thing, that's not enough. Then you had Kenny, and Kenny just rattled off a ton. And I have no doubt you can accomplish all that. Going back just for 1 second on the Fight Club, and you're acting like I did something. When you're looking for people to step behind it, I just want to draw people's attention to you have no idea what kind words, the odd, it can be $1 bill. I don't have $1 million bill, but it can be $100 bill. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a lot of money or a small amount of money. Those things really impact people, and you have no idea. So when you say, I can't believe you did that, I chuckle at you because who helped me build the first studio? Who was my first guest? Who was a part of the book club when I sent out the message on the phone that nobody's ever heard except for you and Brian and Harley and Dust? You guys are the only ones that ever heard it when I had this idea, and you could have shot it down and been like, that's a stupid thing to do. And instead, you all said you should chase that. That's a great idea. I mean, it shouldn't shock you. You get what you give. And to me, I see the way you're doing this Britannia Fight Club, and I don't fully, it's not that I don't fully get it. I kind of get it, but I'm like, I don't want to go start a fight club. Do I want to be a part of Fight Club? Sure. I actually am excited for your first event. I'm like, I want to be there for that day.
We're hosting fights.
I want to come see that. But I mean, it surprises you. And I guess for me, it doesn't surprise me at all because I see you doing something. And I'm like, oh, that's what you need? I don't know how the heck I can do that, but I'm going to find a way because when I needed anything, you were the guy that said, oh, build the studio in my bloody office and then spent way too many nights constructing it with me. And then, being the first guest, although I know you're still a little bit annoyed for that getting released, I was just way too excited. I'm like, it's all sitting there, Ken. It's like, now you have an opportunity of starting something. And I don't know where your goal for that is. I don't know if it's, fighting in the UFC someday and having somebody from the Britannia Fight Club. I don't know if that's the goal. If it is,
healthy community is the end goal.
Right. I look at it and I go, I just want to support it because you've supported me all along the way. And I mean, you for everyone listening, it's like, you don't know if it's just a kind word someday when somebody comes to you in a vulnerable state and you don't realize how vulnerable they really are, and you just offer them a kind word and how important that can be because you have no idea what they're going through. None of us do. And you've been there pretty much every step of the way. And so not every step of the way because obviously we didn't know each other for a long time. But since the book club's been formed, there's been 4 guys who, when I'm having my low days, and all of you know them, it's like you just prop me back up. So you have an idea. It's like, yeah, I want to support it. I'm like, I don't fully get it. But man, I want to see it thrive and you thrive with it and everybody that comes to be a part of it. And if all of a sudden in Britannia, there's a fight club with a brand new whatever and a ring and stuff going on, don't you think the community's going to be like, that'd be pretty freaking cool? Yeah, I want to support that. It's a no-brainer. Now, the difficulty is like, how am I going to figure out how to support that? But those are little details. And so you pray about it. And there will be a way, and I know there will be, and so it's a no-brainer. I just wanted to say that on there because it's funny to me that you can't see it, and for once I can see it.
Yeah, I know you've told the story a few times, Shaun. Where was it Prophet River that gave you the $50?
It was Clay Smiley gave me $50, and he laughed at me, and I didn't understand the laugh. Now I get the laugh, but at the time, it was just like. Somebody just believes a little bit. Yeah. And it was $50.
Yeah.
Now I think about it, I'm like, man, he's like, you need 50. I remember him opening his wallet and him being like, here's $50. Me being right on.
Yeah.
And out the door I went. And it just gave me a little bit of a spark or a little bit of a jump to continue on.
What was that? Pay it forward. You know, like it's something for us to think about, Shaun, is how many times we miss an opportunity. Even if it's just like paying for somebody's meal or patting them on the back because they did something or giving them a hug. I don't know. We put this together. It took a lot of work to do it. And there's been days where I'm like, you know what, if I just go to another gym, pay my $100 a month, I go train. But there's these things that come along. It's like, what was I thinking? Like you put out the call to the community and they just answer in spades. And it's like, and then you have a tear in your eye, you close your door and you're like,
just to give people a little bit of an idea, as we sit here, you've been up almost 24 hours. And I'm like, you sure you still want to do it? I want to miss it. And I'm like, and this guy, folks, still wonders why. He tells me the idea. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I can't believe you're doing that. I'm like, you're sitting here. You've been up 24 hours. It's a bloody snowstorm outside, which is kind of funny when we rolled into this place. It was pretty cool. But like, I mean, yeah, you get what you give. And I think that's as much advice for me as anyone else.
Yeah.
Is like trying to make sure that I never forget something like that because, it's easy to forget that or to just overlook, Claire somewhere out there probably still listening. And she's like, when you're big and powerful or big and famous, forget us. And I'm like, forget you? How could I possibly ever forget people like you?
Yeah.
You're the people that I dearly admire for sticking with me when the world said, this guy's lost his bloody mind. And that's happened multiple times. And now it just don't even bother me. I'm like, oh, whatever. They I know who I am. I'm not that worried about it regardless.
I'm forgetting two people. Is Sheena Smith. She brought Synovus in, who's also helping, and on the Hillmond Hall board, right? They've given us a home. We rent it, but it's not a lot. So we actually have a home thanks to the Hillmond Hall and to the kids and the adults and the old people and the young people that come. And so thank you to all those people.
I look forward to seeing where that goes.
Oh, it's gonna be cool. This year's gonna be a good year.
Like when you can kind of like I can kind of see where you're going, but I'm like, I actually can't. It's not my vision, right? It's yours and others.
When you'll understand it more as you get deeper into jiu-jitsu and you see what pressure in a martial art does to your mind. And then you start to think, what could this do for my community? What could this do for the youth? What could this do for that athlete that can't afford hockey? What it gives you avenues, it gives you strength, and there's a respect that comes when you box somebody or you fight somebody, you wrestle somebody, when it's done out of love and care. You're trying to take each other out, and you can't repeat that in any other way. We've done some jiu-jitsu when we first started. Do you know a little bit what I'm talking about?
Well, yes, I've been choked up by Ken a couple times. When do we have to have you?
Yeah, the date.
The date.
Okay.
So if you're listening to this on December 31st, you should, if you're serious about it, text me your name and take some time and think on finishing Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules to Life.
What date will you finish it by?
And
you're send it to you by what date?
Yeah. But what day are we having our vision board?
I'm going to do mine fairly quickly because I know what it's like. If you're like, oh, 2 months from now, it's just, you get busy, you forget. I'm going to do mine by January 1st. If you'd like me to delay that by
no.
I'm
I'm going to be in Minnesota. So I'm like, but the funny thing is if there's ever a time to do it, it's probably when I'm sitting there. So I tell you what, January 1st.
Glue it up. If
January
1st you change something,
no,
put a picture on it.
Screw you.
Okay,
January 1st. January 1st.
When do you want people can read the book, but when do you want them to email or text their
December 31st? If they're listening to this and they're still listening, they're like,
pick something. Just pick one. And Shaun, what are we going to call the victory day where we say, okay, everybody that did it, what are you going to call that?
I don't know. What do you want to call that? I don't even know that was a thing.
Well, a year from now, we're going to be sitting here and there's going to be some cool stories that come in. It's going to probably be hard to keep a dry eye. It'll be a special day.
And we're going to have a scotch. Nope, folks, we're going to be having a coffee with some creamer.
Okay, let's let somebody out there will have a cool. What's that name of that day that we get to call it the day of champions or the day of the victor or the day of the, I don't know. Pick something cool. I can't do it. I'm too tired. Because I haven't slept for a while.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come.
Yeah. God bless you, Shawnee.
Is there anything else before we end the year in review that you want to make sure we highlight?
Okay, this is your year in review. I thank you for letting me share it. I'm just going to go over my notes, Shawnee. There's one, but I don't think it needs to come up.
What is the one? Now you can't say that because now I'm going to think about it.
I think it's going backwards. I'll throw it out to you, and if you want to answer. But I kind of feel like it's going backwards. I think we've covered ground. The one thing I'd written down for you was, what's a very optimistic thing that you see occurring and having a reasonable probability of occurring in 2026? What's a very pessimistic thing? But I think we've kind of hashed a lot of these out.
Yeah, I think we have.
Questions
I tell you what, the teaser I'm going to leave people with because I literally can't announce either. Is I think there's going to be, in my opinion, an A-list guest at the Cornerstone Forum. That is what I believe will happen. And there is big things coming for the podcast as a whole. It is a large idea that is going to push me to my breaking point probably. And I love doing this to myself.
It's cool.
But when it does get announced, I think some people are going to be like, that's amazing. And some other people are going to be like, what the heck is this guy doing?
Everybody's going to think you're amazing. Not you're amazing, but...
No, the idea.
I can't go any further because we're going to give hints. Shaun, one more thing is, even if you're on your own and you'd like to come to the Cornerstone Forum, I know what it's like. I probably wouldn't go unless I had a friend or a family. But last year we had a table where we sat with people that we know. It was myself, Angela, Lee, Alan. And who did we sit down with? A guy that came by himself. He was originally from Mexico and he was living in California or something.
Yeah.
There was an older couple that sat with us. You sit down and this guy comes up by himself. And within 30 seconds, we all knew his name. He was our buddy. He spent the day with us. We had breakfast with him in the morning. Come by yourself. You that is the one place. I know I've been in a place where you come by yourself and it's kind of hard to get to know anybody. You're awkward. This is not the place. You're going to sit down. Everybody at the table is going to shake your hands. You're going to find out who you are. And you're going to, even if you're all on your own, come. You will not feel alone. You will not feel like you're sore thumb sticking out. You're just come. Yeah. You'll love it.
Well, and buy a ticket today.
Buy a ticket quick.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, there will still be tickets there tomorrow.
Yeah, but once you're guessing, I see that being a sellout.
Well, if it's confirmed. Once again, I'm going to keep saying that because I should use the Kenny. When it's confirmed, because we'll put that thought. Yes, when it's confirmed.
It will be confirmed.
Yeah. I think the Cornerstone this year is going to be on a different level than it has been previously, and that's saying something because I think the last this year's one was something to behold and be a part of, and I'm looking forward to the third iteration of it, and I'm excited to announce some things when we can finally drop it. I hinted it on last year's one, and I thought I'd be able to talk about it by now, but there are dominoes slowly starting to fall and probably fast. And, you know, probably a couple months is going to go by and we're going to get to announce it. And it's probably the largest idea I've ever undertaken. And I am extremely excited. And I look forward to sharing that with everyone. And I appreciate, Kenny, once again, you doing this with me. And I look forward to a year's time and seeing if we've completed what we've put on a vision board.
You look forward to a year's time when we've completed.
Thank you. When we've completed. Yes. Yes.
Well, Merry Christmas to your listeners, Shaun. Merry Christmas to you.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Thanks for being a good friend.
If you are going and having a good time on New Year's Eve, just make sure you do it safe. I know that's the old, I sound like an old man, but you know, it's a happy time. Do it responsibly. There's, you know, I remember me and Colby Mann talking about this when we did the math on a DUI and what you lose because of that. Or if you go fight it and you pay the lawyer bill to get out of it, how many Ubers or cabs we could take. And when we did the math, we're like, what the heck? Mm-hmm. Why would you drink and drive? And I'm no saint, but like the truth of the matter is go have a good time, enjoy family, friends, enjoy New Year's Eve, enjoy the Christmas season. Just be responsible. Think about the consequences of not doing that, because it happens every Christmas, every single Christmas season, New Year's Eve, somebody's getting busted. And the ramifications of that, if you're listening to this podcast, are like, man, you can't, that's a big old hole. That's not the way to start the year out. Start the year out by, you know, if you're going to have some fun, making a responsible decision and set it at the start of the night so you know what you're doing. And just make sure you don't put yourself in a bind. And but regardless, happy New Year, everyone. I appreciate you hopping in for, you know, another year in review, and look forward to 2026. I think there's big things. I know there's big things on the horizon.
Shaun, to go back, I'm just envisioning that person who's thinking about sending something in. Would you want to make a commitment that if it's personal, that you would keep it private?
Oh, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so if it's saying, I want my marriage to be repaired, that when it comes time to have the Victor's Day, you would just say, Ken made his goal. He's asked to keep it private. That if you want to keep it private, it's between you and Shaun.
I hope people know this by now.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go and air your dirty laundry on air. But yeah, like to me, I think what Ken's getting at is if it's personal, that's probably good. That's you know,
you just get to say at the end of the year, I did
it. Ken's vision board starts out with, I want the best year of marriage in my life, and I want my wife to say it, not me, my wife to say it. I look forward to seeing what Kenny's going to have to do to make that happen, right? But in fairness, it took something like being sober for my wife to say we like sober Shaun. The kids and I like sober Shaun. And she didn't say it as an endearing thing, but it came off as endearing. I'm like, oh man, that is, didn't see that coming. And so to have a year like that, to put pressure on you, you're going to have to do some things, because I don't think you're you know, a bad man, but to really push it that hard and to have another person say it, I look forward to seeing what Kenny comes up with in 2026.
Well, let's go. Right on, Shawnee.
All right.
Thanks again.